A beautiful girl with blonde hair appeared in front of the young man. She said that she would fulfill one of his wishes. The moment the hero heard this, a picture from his favorite anime from when he was a child came to mind. A fantastic tale about a flying, moving castle. This show had a big impact on his life. He had long dreamed of living in this castle. At least when he was a child. The young man said that he wanted to get the castle. Suddenly, the young man wakes up from the sound of the alarm clock. He woke up and realized that the alarm clock interrupted such a wonderful night's sleep. The young man opened the window from his bedroom and saw the castle's beautiful columns and conical roofs. His bedroom was in a huge castle that seemed to be floating in the clouds. The main character said that it was a really beautiful day. The boy who was enjoying the pleasant breeze was named Shiihara Daiki. He says that he died recently. On his way home from work, he felt hungry and suddenly collapsed right in front of the store. It seems that the angel made a mistake when she took his soul. She also could not revive him. However, if he were sent to heaven, the angel's mistake would be revealed. So she said that she would grant the boy any wish. The main character told the girl about his childhood dream. He says that on top of a wonderful floating island, a castle stands high above the clouds, and there are robots protecting it. The young man approached the angel and said that he wanted a flying castle. In the end, the girl actually fulfilled the main character's wish and gave him a flying castle. Since the young man cannot be returned to the same world in which he knows, he was restored in another world, and he received this castle. But since he came to this world, he saw only the endless sky and sea. He expects something interesting. The young man tells himself what he will do if there is only an ocean in this world. Suddenly, something starts to signal behind the door. Daiki does not understand what is happening. He quickly began to descend from his room along the spiral staircase and came to the room where the cameras are located, which control the entire perimeter around the castle. From the screens in this room, he sees everything. Suddenly, the hero sees a huge and dangerous dragon on the screen. Daiki starts to fuss and hurry. He tries to remember how he defended himself from monsters last time. He sees a button that says Lightning Strike. He thinks that's what it was last time he defended himself from monsters. A huge dragon is attacked by a sudden lightning bolt. The castle is surrounded by a protective barrier every day and every hour. The young man looks at the slain dragon and thinks if this is normal, and if he did the right thing. He is very sorry, and he cannot yet fully control his power of this huge castle. Then he turns his attention back to the screen. He saw little robots doing something near the bush. The plantation is looked after by robots, and there are also golems in the castle that protect the castle. The young man comes into the room with the golems and notices one there. He calls one golem Awan and says that he has done a good job today too. He pats the golem on the chest. Neither robots nor golems can communicate with him. The golem watches intently as the young man pulls himself up. Daiki says that he is very hungry and it is time for a snack. The young man came into the kitchen. He thinks that he does not have a robot cat that could instantly cook him food. He starts roasting and says it's fun, so it's right for him. He also says he's gotten better at cooking. He sits down at the table and wishes himself a bon appetit. He chews and says that rice is the best breakfast, but natto is also very tasty. After his breakfast, he smiles and says that he will finish the game where he left off yesterday. Since the angel allowed him to keep the same things he had in his past life, he can read the manga and watch the anime he had before he died. He can also watch movies and play games in the castle theater. When he was alive, he was so busy that he never rested. But now he does what he wants, eats what he wants, eats what he wants, and even sleeps when he wants. These things are more valuable than he thought. To live slowly at your own pace. That's the best thing. Every day is Sunday for him. The main character's castle is like a theme park. The hero spent days doing something incomprehensible. For example, he explored his robots, played football in the garden, explored the castle, watched movies, or simply slept. Then he would simply come to the canteen to enjoy the delicacies. Day after day passed like this. The young man swam in the pool and thought about how many weeks had passed since he had found himself in this castle. He had already lost everything, so he had nothing else to do. He dives into the water and thinks that he is very bored. The young man dives into the water depths and thinks that he is very lonely. He wants to talk to someone. He emerges from the pool with the thought that he wants to meet another person. He dries his skin and then gets dressed. Daiki always sees only the ocean from the castle, but he met a dragon. So there are lands where dragons live. He began to look for the continent. He prays for intelligent beings to exist on this continent. A few hours later, Daiki saw land. He was glad that this continent existed, and he would triumph at the thought that they had done this with A1. Suddenly, he saw a horse in a window and froze. This animal seemed very familiar to him, but he did not understand why it was sleeping. Suddenly, on the screen, he saw an overturned carriage and realized that this was local transport, which meant that civilization existed here. Besides himself, the young man saw only aggressive monsters. He was worried that in this world there could only be monsters. But here there were intelligent beings who could build a carriage and use a horse to move it. Suddenly the young man sees knights riding horses. He is happy that he sees people, although maybe they are not people, but they are in armor, and this is very cool. The young man says that it looks like a fantasy world. He also realized what kind of civilization exists in it. Suddenly the young man sees a beautiful girl running along a coast, just like in the movies. Suddenly he notices that the girl is not just running. She is trying to escape from those very people in armor. Suddenly the knights dismount and draw their swords. They chase the girl closer to the end of the cliff. Below was a precipice where water splashed at the bottom. The hero looked at the screen and thought about what happened. Even if he finds people here for the first time, then if it goes like any suspense show, then the one who is cornered will definitely be dead. The young man shouted what they should do. They must stop someone's death. He asks A1 what they should do and asks to help him. He asks in his thoughts that the girl not die and calls her resident number 1. The knights ordered the girl to surrender, but she was shaking all over and reaching for her dagger. The girl held her blade to her neck and said that if the knights came close again, she would kill herself. The men in armor began to laugh, and the girl winced at this reaction. They say that if the girl dies, they will simply take her body, strip her naked, and hang her in front of the people. That will be the most fun. The girl replies that if she simply jumps off the cliff, her body will return to nature directly. The knights looked at each other and replied that the girl should follow them quietly. If she gave in, he would make sure that she was not treated badly. The girl screamed that it was a lie, because after everything they said, she definitely wouldn't believe them. The girl clutches the blade and says that there is no way back for her. The knights bare their blades. The men ask the girl if she thinks she can escape. They will follow her wherever she decides to go. There is no such thing as a safe place for her. She has no choice but to go to them. One man orders other knights to grab the girl. She shudders a lot. The girl asks them not to come near. Suddenly, a shadow covers them. The knights raise their heads and ask what it is. The girl also turns around and sees a huge flying castle that appears right out of the huge clouds. The knights were shaking with fear, because they saw that a huge island was hovering right above them. The knight says he will return right now and report it. The second knight throws his blade and says they can just kill her and return the body. The girl begins to squint, but suddenly A1 appears in front of her, deftly intercepts the blade, and breaks its blade. The knights realized that an iron golem had appeared before them, but another knight said that he had never seen such a golem. The girl also did not understand how a golem appeared here from the sky. The golem begins to reach for the girl. She shakes and asks not to touch her. The golem takes the girl in his arms. The girl asked to let the golem go. The knight behind golem A1 screamed about how dare the iron golem interfere with them. He hits the golem with his sword, but it cracks and splits in half. The knight didn't understand how this could be. Golem A1 soars into the sky. The girl screamed for him to wait. At this time, Daiki sighs and says that it was close. He's very glad that A1 did it on time. It was an excellent choice on which a lot depended. However, the young man thinks what a nerve-wracking thriller it was. The boy must be friendly and meet the girl. It was the first time in a long time that he had seen other people. Daiki said that he was very nervous. The young man runs into the hall and thanks A1 and tells him welcome. Then he turns to the girl and says that he is very pleased to meet her too. The young man smiles nervously and asks the girl if she knows Japanese. Suddenly, the girl loses consciousness and falls right on the young man. He tries to catch her, but can't stand it, and also falls from surprise. Daiki thinks she is unconscious. The girl must be horrified by what happened. Then he notices a mark on the girl's body and thinks it is a scar. Then he asks who this girl is. The main character was reborn in another world and received a flying castle, which he dreamed of since he was a child. But since he was all alone, he was very lonely, so he decided to find other people. While wandering through the sky, he noticed a beautiful girl who was being attacked by strange people, and he decided to take care of her. In the medical room, the girl was lying in a capsule called the medical bay. The young man says that he thinks that A1 likes tan girls better, so he put her in this capsule which looks like a solarium. A1 starts to stare. The young man thought that the robot was angry because of this, but it was just a joke. He says that he understands and that he will not joke like that anymore, and then suggests that the robot just look at the girl's condition. After some time, the girl's health diagnostics are completed, and the young man realizes that, it seems, the girl is not sick. He reads her description. The girl belonged to the human race and was 16 years old. Daiki realized that she was still very young. Then the characteristics of the girl began to appear on the monitor. Her size, weight, and other parameters. The young man closes his eyes and says that this is not good. He will be accused of interesting behavior if he continues to read all this. He then notices the girl's status, which shows that the girl is undernourished and has a cold. Daiki looks at the girl and says that he will prepare her a delicious meal full of nutrients. He tells the robot to tell him when she wakes up. The girl has a dream where she is in a palace. She asks people to stop and not do bad things. She begged them to stop. The king of the country stood before her. The girl begged her father to help her. Suddenly, she wakes up with a feeling of suffocation. The girl wakes up in bed. She looks around and sees that there is no one in the room. She sees strange devices and thinks that this is the afterlife, since there are many books and an incomprehensible black picture. Then the blanket slides off her, and the girl realizes that she is alive. Because that time a huge iron golem came to the cliff and took her away. The girl realized that she was not dead. She began to cry and think why she was such a coward and so useless. She cringed and thought that she was very sorry. One in the doorway. The girl gets scared. She sees that iron golem. She thinks it is controlled by a nearby mage. But she doesn't understand what she should do. The girl starts to cry and asks the golem not to kill her. The golem holds out his hand to her. She stops crying and does not understand what is happening. The girl gives her trembling hand to the golem, and he leads the way. The girl thinks why the golem does not attack her. Then the golem leads the girl to a room where there are still a huge number of golems. The girl looked around the room and did not understand what was wrong with this huge number of golems. She did not understand why there were so many of them here and whether they were preparing for war. In this world, golems are a huge force in themselves. Golem is a weapon of war created by wizards to show others their mental abilities and technique. But it would take a huge amount of magical power to create and control a golem. Even if every court mage focused their efforts on creating golems, they would probably only be able to make about 12 of them. Not even the Brow Empire could create that many. The girl thought how many wizards there were here. She did not understand where this place was. The girl asked who this golem was. They usually say that you will be popular with the ladies if you can cook. In a past life, the hero ate the food he cooked himself in silence because he was told that sharing food with strangers was a bit weird. However, now the young man has nothing to say, since he does not know, which can be attributed to unusually strange behavior. Now that he thinks about it, he's never cooked for girls. First of all, does soy sauce exist in this world? Is it possible that there are people who have never tried salt and sugar since they're hard to get? It is possible to even eat forbidden foods because of religion. As a result, a minute of silence was stuck in the young man's head. Suddenly, he realized that there was no one who did not like pasta. He chose the safest way. He will also make a fresh salad from vegetables picked straight from the field and perhaps make some small meat dish. Suddenly, the young man hears the ringing of the clock. He thinks that maybe the girl has already woken up. He leaves the room and sees the girl and A1 standing at the door. The young man smiles and wishes the girl good morning. She gets scared and tears appear in her eyes. Then the girl hides behind the golem. Daiki says that everything is fine and he is not scary and also he will not do anything. The young man says that the girl's clothes were dirty, so he ordered the robot to change them. The girl behind the golem asked the young man if he was a magician. She stuttered a lot from fear. The protagonist's eyes sparkled. He asked what the girl had just called him. He was also glad that she spoke Japanese and also that they could actually communicate. The girl asks why the young man brought her here and what he will do with her, because she has nothing and is a beggar. The young man apologized and said that he is not a thief or anything like that. He also says that it looked like she was in trouble, so he thought it would be better to help her. The girl asks if the young man really wanted to save her. The boy apologizes for explaining himself incorrectly. The girl says that he shouldn't apologize. The boy also says that the girl woke up in an unfamiliar room and that it must have been scary. The girl was attacked by some guys and then lost consciousness, so he thought that her caution made sense. Then the young man asks the girl if she doesn't mind. Could she tell him her name? The boy says his name is Shiihara Daiki. The girl says her name is Ila. She is just an ordinary village girl. Suddenly, one robot runs into the room and starts creaking. The robot is trying to tell him something. He goes into the kitchen and sees an overflowing bowl of something boiling. Daiki says that it is overflowing. He turns to Ayla and A1 and asks them to go to the dining room first because they can eat together. After some time, Ayla, Daiki, and A1 find themselves in the dining room. The boy and girl are eating. There is excellent food on the table, which is just shining. The girl is surprised by this. The young man wishes her bon appetit. Ayla twirls the pasta around her fork and then pops a small portion into her mouth. She says the dish is delicious. Then one forkful after another, she begins to quickly eat her portion. The young man says that a second is enough for her to eat it. The girl awkwardly says that she can't do something so shameless. Daiki says that it's okay and he made a lot of pasta anyway. Ayla says that the boy not only saved her life, but also cooked food for her. She thanks him from the bottom of her heart, but then says that in return, she was too rude to the boy. Daiki says that everything is fine and everything is fine. Then the girl says that in that case she was curious how many magicians there were in this castle. Suddenly Daiki became gloomy and said that he was the only one here. He says that he was lonely, and he was so sad, and A1 Kanjitat even talk. The girl was surprised that he was here alone. She says that the boy takes care of and controls this and other golems on his own. Daiki asks her again about the golems. Then he says that, after all, only he can do it. He controls them with one control panel, which is very convenient. The girl is surprised. She thinks that not only this golem, but he himself supports all the golems in this castle. She is surprised that the young man has such great magical power to have such skill. She is surprised that he might not even be human. The girl then asks that the boy has a huge amount of magical power to control this many golems by himself. She bows low and calls Daiki a great magician. The young man is surprised by what the girl just said about magical power in magicians. He understands that magic exists in this world, but he is not a magician. However, if he told the truth, that he was from another world who died and reincarnated here, he thinks that it would make the girl even more afraid of him. He then asks A1 if he really doesn't use electricity, since he was absolutely sure that the golem uses solar energy. Sometime after the meal, Daiki shows Ayla her room and tells her that she can settle in for the day. The girl says that she apologizes and that she is very grateful for the boy's kindness. She also says that she will definitely return the favor one day. She can't thank the boy enough, though. The girl bows. Daiki thinks that people in this world also bow when they express gratitude. The boy says she shouldn't worry, and then he shows her the shower and toilet. But the girl doesn't understand what he's talking about. Daiki explains that it's a modern toilet. If the girl presses the button, warm water will come out to wash herself. The girl sits down at the toilet and presses the button. Suddenly, a stream of water appears. She is surprised that the vodka is really warm. She says that she has never seen anything like this, even in the royal palace. It's incredible. The young man understands that the girl was in the royal palace, although she herself said that she was a resident of the village. But could she be rich enough? The girl is happy that everything is very beautiful. She looks out the window and sees a beautiful night sky and such a wonderful view. Daiki says that they are flying after all, so they can always enjoy the beautiful view of the sky. The girl did not understand what the young man meant when he said that they were flying. Then the girl leaned closer to the window and saw that the castle was really flying. She began to tremble, and then turned to Daiki and asked why and how he was flying. The young man thinks that he himself does not know how it happened. Then a series of interesting everyday life began. The young man showed the girl how to cook on an electric ceramic stove. He then showed her how to wash the dishes using dishwashing liquid and a sponge. But the plates kept slipping out of her hands. But eventually, she got the hang of it and began to do her task neatly. Another time, a young man showed a girl a movie because it was the first time she watched something on a screen. Because she didn't even know what a movie was. He even offered her popcorn while watching it. But she was very captivated by it. Another day, he showed her the garden. To Ayla, it seemed simply enormous, and the halls of the castle incredibly beautiful. Then Daiki and A1 took the girl to the plantations that were tended by other robots. The girl was surprised when water poured out of the robot's hand to feed the plants. She was so amused by this that she even smiled. The young man noticed this and then thought that Ayla had been in this castle for several days, and it seemed that she had gotten used to living here and had become very energetic again. He was very happy about this. In the end, he didn't ask why she was being chased by armored men that time. It was possible that she had been attacked. Plus, the scar on her body looked very suspicious. When the time comes, he hopes that she will tell him about it. Although before that, he must return her to her family. He believes that they are worried and looking for her. If Ayla returns, he thinks that he will be alone again. The girl smiles at the young man, and he smiles back at her. After a while, Daiki and Ayla bring baskets. The girl asks if they are using these vegetables for food today. The young man suggests mixing them with meat. The girl says she was waiting to ask that, but where does the boy get his meat, since she hasn't seen any cattle here? Daiki says that, technically speaking, they don't buy it. He becomes gloomy and says that there are things that are better for a girl not to know. Ayla asks what the boy means. Daiki says that it is a bit shocking, so he does not recommend knowing it. Then the watch gives a signal. The young man thinks that there is something on the horizon. He arrives at the observation room and sees on the monitors that they have found a village. They see a carriage that is going very fast. Then the young man sees a man with a tail and triangular ears. It looks like a beast man. People on horses are chasing him. Ayla is frightened and realizes that the people on horses are beast hunters. She heard that the beasts are sold at a high price as a forbidden commodity. Daiki is surprised that if these beastmen are caught, they will become forbidden goods. The main character has only heard of slaves in history books. He realizes that something so inhuman is happening in this world. The girl squeezes his hand and turns to the protagonist. She bows to the floor and asks if he could save these beastmen. She is fully aware that she has nothing to ask the young man for, but she begs him to fulfill her request. Daiki thinks about it. The hero cannot possibly perform such a feat because he is not a wizard, as the girl thinks. But everything can go smoothly. Like when he saved Ayla. Suddenly, the young man hears a scream coming from the surveillance screen. It shows the beast girl. He realizes that there is no time to hesitate. He turns to A1 and says that he gives the order to help him. The golem stands in a position ready to carry out orders. Daiki asks A1 to lend him his power. Golem looks at him and does not understand what he means. To use a short summary of what happened, it turns out that Daiki made a friend and was freed from loneliness. But even when he lived happily, he discovered that there was a hunt for beastmen on Earth. Shocked by the horrible, inhuman culture of this place, he shouted that he will not let this happen, so he decides to use the power of the A1 golem and save the beastmen. At this time, the beast girl was running away from people who were chasing her on horseback. They were shouting that they couldn't let her go because she was very pretty in appearance. The girl ran as fast as she could, but suddenly one man threw a chain towards her and it wrapped around her leg. The girl stumbled and fell. A man approached her, but she grabbed a dagger from her sleeve and began to attack him. The man deftly grabbed her wrist and disarmed her. The girl asked to let her go, but the man said, could she stop causing them trouble, and why couldn't any of the beastmen just stand still? The second man asked the first man not to be so rude to this girl. If her price dropped because of the man, then she would reduce his reward. The first man said he understood, and then asked him to bring the seal of enslavement. He asks if this seal should be used now. The second man replied that this girl was very impudent, so they should tell her properly that she was now their product. He says he will carve this mark on her face so that everyone will know that she is a forbidden commodity as soon as they see her. The girl screamed in fear. Suddenly something exploded behind the men, and suddenly they saw a golem rushing straight at them. The man did not understand why the golem was in such a place. Another man shouted that the magician had to be found right now. Meanwhile, the golem attacked one man and then grabbed another by the collar. It took his face with its hand and began to squeeze. The man asked not to do this, but the golem continued to use its power. Daiki at this time ordered A1 to stop. The golem obediently threw the man to the ground and then turned away from the beast girl. Daiki then told A1 to find and stop the carriage, because there should be more beastmen there. The girl heard this. Suddenly, she said that her father and mother were in the carriage as well as everyone else. Daiki watched the actions of A1, who was lifting the cart at that time, and said that he was very strong because they even killed one of those people. Suddenly, Ayla saw on the screen the seal that is placed on prohibited goods, and her heart began to beat wildly. She started shaking really badly, and Daiki asked her if she was okay. He apologized for showing her a horrific scene like that. The girl replied that she was okay. She also says that she is truly grateful to Daiki for saving Kemono Mimi, and she hopes that none of them were branded with the seal of a forbidden commodity. The boy asks about this seal. He scratches his head and says that he really doesn't know anything about it, because in the place where he lived before all this, there was no such concept. The girl says that the seal of the forbidden goods is proof that even a person will be treated as a thing. The young man is horrified and repeats the girl's words. Anyone who has been marked with this seal will be sold as a forbidden commodity and will have to obey their owner. The seal will last as long as the commodity lives, and they have no rights as a human. People caught selling prohibited goods will be restrained and given a seal of enslavement. Using the magical power embedded in the seal, they cannot move freely. They cannot go against any command that has been given to them. When they are sold to someone, the right to print them will also be transferred, and they must live as prohibited goods forever. If they go against the master, the seal will punish them. In the worst case, it may even kill them. Daiki is surprised that people can even die from the seal. The girl says that she has only heard stories about this, but for some people, they believe that prohibited goods that go against their will are called defective products. Daiki says that this is very cruel and the refuge for these people is here. Luckily, he has a lot of unused land and it would be better to use it. Then a carriage arrives at the castle. Daiki sees that the girl they saved earlier has fainted. He approaches the carriage and thinks that the flight was a terrifying experience for her. Then A1, using force, pushes the bars of the carriage apart. Ila sees a lot of beast people with the mark of prohibited goods behind them. Daiki looks into the cage and asks them if they are okay. The man, who was a beast man, immediately began to shield the women and children. Ayla then explains to them that Daiki is a great magician. He controls this flying castle, and his name is Shiihara Daiki. He used his power to save them all. She is also the person the young man saved a few days ago. She asks them to be sure that Daiki is a good person. The boy says that technically A1 is one of those who saved them, and as they can see, he does not have a weapon on him. He also says that A1, that is, the golem, is also a good person, so they shouldn't worry. The man thought for a moment and then introduced himself as Bart. He turns to Daiki and says that he is called the Great Magician, but the man has never heard his name. He can't just trust him, so he asks the boy to show him some evidence that will help them trust him. The young man tries to come up with evidence. The man says that one way or another it is a very unusual castle. The girl called it a flying castle. They were brought here flying in a carriage. So does that mean this castle really flies? Daiki replies that it's all true. He thought he had to evacuate them all, so he told the golem to bring them all here. This place is his home. There is also a farm and a pond here, so it is easy to live here. They gather both meat and fish. They do not feel cold or heat here. The sky is beautiful. They can play as long as they want. The young man also says that here they can sing loudly at night and no one will be angry with them. The man starts laughing at Daiki's words. The girls start to get worried. The man says everything is fine and he doesn't look like the type to sell them or anything. After some time, the beast men begin to get out of the cart. The young man helps the old man down, and the girls examine those who lost consciousness during the flight. The man apologizes for his rudeness, but it's hard to trust someone who says they won't hurt us. The boy says he understands because they've been through a terrible experience. Then one girl turns to Bart and says that there is something in the front seat. Daiki then asks if they are okay with it and will live here. He also says that he heard that the Kimono Mimi had become a target for illegal goods traders. He asks if they would be willing to return to Earth. However, he can guarantee them a livelihood. The man says that Daiki is a generous person, but they will have to apologize since they are the guardians of the shrine. Their ancestors have protected the forest and the shrine for many generations, so they cannot abandon this duty. Usually they can handle these bandits themselves, but one of their family members was taken hostage. An older man approaches and tells Bart what he will do with those who have received the mark of enslavement. The traffickers of prohibited goods have already left, but if they return, they can immediately detain anyone who is branded. If they have a hostage, like last time, they can't do anything. It would just be a repeat of the past. Bart says that he will protect them, meaning he will protect his family. The old man replies that they were somehow saved by the man's golem. But even if they could fight off the bandits, there is also a chance that other traders will come. The young man says that even if there are only 3 of them, the bandits will not be able to reach the flying castle. And even if they do, the golem will be able to protect them. Bart tries to think about all this. Suddenly, a girl comes up and says that she thinks this is the best thing to do. She doesn't want to cause problems for everyone in the forest, and she doesn't want to make it harder to guard the temple. The man hugs the girl and calls her Tallene. Daiki looks at all this and tells them not to worry, because they can always come to the forest. He says it's so sad not to be able to see his family. They can easily get to the forest on this flying castle. Suddenly, at this time, the girl who was recently saved by Daiki and lost consciousness from flying wakes up. The girl sees her mother and all the other beastmen. Suddenly, Daiki is distracted by a voice from the side. The beast girl grabbed a dagger and held it to Ayla's throat. She ordered the young man to let everyone go, and if he does not, she will kill this woman. Bart turned to this girl named Mare and ordered her to stop immediately, because these people saved them. The girl asked if they were traders of forbidden goods. Bart said that they were their saviors, whose name was Daiki, and the girl was his wife. Ayla was surprised that she was called a wife. Daiki immediately shouted that he and Ayla were not married. Ayla and he were temporary roommates, and he planned to send her back home. Bart ordered Mare to let the girl go. He said he was truly sorry. Even if Ayla was also one of their saviors, to think that one of them would point a blade at her. The girl said it was okay. Mare asks for forgiveness. Ayla says that the girl's thoughts must be very confused, since she just experienced something terrible. She smiles and asks the girl not to worry about it because she just did her best to protect everyone. Daiki looked at everyone and said that everyone who wants to return to Earth must sit in this cart and the golem will take them back. After a while, Mare asked why Mom wouldn't go with him. Bart said Mom was branded by the peddlers of forbidden goods. To keep their duty of protecting the temple, she should stay away from them. The girl asks if her mother is really staying here. Bart tries to tell her something, but Mare says that she will also stay here with her mother. Bart doesn't understand what she's saying and asks her to go with Dad, but Mare flatly refuses. Daiki says he won't have any problems if Mare stays here. Bart says he doesn't want to believe that Mare has fully realized the state they are in. He tries to explain to his daughter that they have an important idea to protect the temple. The girl clung to her mother and said that she would stay with her. Daiki said that Bart would return within 3 months, so there was no need to worry. Bart started talking about 3 months, and then tears started flowing from his eyes. Daiki understands that it is hard to be a father to a daughter going through puberty. After some time, A1 transports all the beastmen to the ground, and then flies back to the castle. Daiki tells him that he did his job well. Then the remaining beastmen in the castle fall to their knees and bow. Tallene says that they deeply express their gratitude for the youth saving them this time. She also says that they will do everything possible to return the favor that Daiki did for them. The young man, in a panic, began telling them to all raise their heads and behave normally. Then they stand up. The girl says that her name is Tallene. The boy next to her is her younger brother Lant, and also her younger sister Schnee. Then she introduces her daughter, Mare. She says that the girl may be a bit of a tomboy and not very honest in her feelings, but she is a very good girl, so the woman asks the young man to take care of her. Daiki then notices that Mare is injured and tells her that her wound needs to be healed, then calls her to follow him. They place the girl in a capsule. Tallene asks if the boy will use magic to heal her. The boy says that a check for disorders can be made, and any wound will heal on its own, so it is some kind of magic. Mare begins to shake in the capsule from all sorts of blows and knocks. Tallene asks her daughter if she's okay. Daiki says that she is only a little scared, but that has already been cured. As for the other thing, She has a vitamin deficiency. She has not been eating vegetables and fruits properly. Ela looks at her stats and thinks she can't read the words, but she can read the numbers. She sees the numbers and hopes they are her weight, and then notices her stat values. She blushes at this information. Daiki notices the girl and says that it is not what she thought. The data appeared when he was treating her while the girl was unconscious. He says he don't do it on purpose. Ela said it was okay. Mare didn't understand what Daiki and Ayla were talking about, and Shni wondered if her weight would be known as she lay in that capsule. Then the young man asks about food. They're going to cook a delicious dish with fresh vegetables that they picked straight from the farm. He asks Ayla to help them. The girl agrees. Shni says they can help too. Daiki says if everyone helps, the food will be made much faster. Tulane says that everything is correct and they should be ready to meet the rest of the wizards. The young man said that there is no one else here. After a while, everyone came to the kitchen. Tulane was surprised that only 2 people lived in the castle. Ayla said that she also thought that the castle was controlled by more than one magician. Daiki says he is very glad everyone has come here. The vegetables are more than they can handle. Mare says the food on the table looks very appetizing. Snee said that it was the first time she saw these vegetables, and Tulane replied that they might be different from their vegetables, but they also looked very tasty. Daiki realized that this was the first time he cooked with so many people. At this time, Mare was teaching Ayla how to cut vegetables. She said that it would be easier for her if she cut these vegetables in a different way. Snee was yelling at Land to bring her some plates while she was frying vegetables in a pan. Daiki was smiling and thinking that this would be a lot of fun. After some time, a huge variety of dishes were ready. Everyone sat down at the table. Suddenly, Daiki saw that the beastmen were praying before eating. He and Ayla folded their hands in front of themselves and wished each other a pleasant appetite. Then everyone started eating. Shni, chewing the vegetables, said that they turned out very good. Lance also said that they were very sweet and tasty. Mare said that the meat was very juicy. Suddenly Daiki noticed a full bowl of rice that no one had touched. He thought about the rice rising up, because it is love and its soul is Japanese. He thought about how the people of this world will not accept him. Snee and Mare tried the rice, but they did not understand its taste. Daiki began to cry because it was very sad and he would definitely make everyone love him. Ela looked at the young man questioningly. The girl remembered his words when he told Bart that they were just temporary roommates and that he planned to send her back home. The girl thought about her home. After some time, after the meal, the beastmen headed to the farm plantations. Mare ran and was surprised that it was very cool and beautiful here. Tulane saw a beautiful farm outside the castle. She realized that the vegetables they were eating grew here. Suddenly, Lan screamed at the sight of the robots and asked who these guys were. Daiki explained that they were robots that helped him with the farm and performed minor tasks. Ela also admires the views of the farm. Lant asked Daiki if he really controls so many golems in addition to the flying castle. Shni says that the boy has amazing magical power, and Mayer said that it is as expected of a great one. The young man realized that this was another misunderstanding. He wondered if he should say that he had received this castle when he died, but he did not understand how to explain this to them all. Suddenly, the boy is called by Tulane. The woman tells the boy to let them help with the task of picking vegetables and any other tasks to repay his kindness. The young man said that they should not worry about this. Suddenly, Land shouted for the hero to let them do something. They smile and say that they want to help Daiki. The boy thinks that he feels bad about this, but tells them that in this case they can help him. The boy then calls Ela and asks her if he can take up some of her time. The girl agrees. At this time, Tulane notices them. Land approaches his sister and asks her what happened. Tulane puts her hand on her cheek and says thoughtfully that she has seen Ayla somewhere before. After some time, Ela and Daiki went inside the castle. The young man says that he is glad that everyone liked the place. The girl also says that she is very glad that everyone turned out to be good people. Then they enter the observation room. Daiki says that after flying for some time, he found a large city. The young man asks the girl if she knows anything about it. The girl notices 2 tall city towers on the surveillance screen. She assumes that this is the city of Vish. It is located in the middle of the Brow Empire. She also heard that these 2 towers are a symbol. Daiki asks about the Brow Empire. The girl replies that the Brow Empire is a great kingdom that is hostile to the kingdom where the girl comes from. That is, the kingdom of Atula. Daiki thinks that all this sounds dangerous. The young man then asks Ayla what she said about living in Atul. The girl gives a positive answer. Daiki asks her about this place. The girl says that this is a small kingdom and the place where she lived. The city is very close to the border of the Brow Empire. Daiki says that he sees it. He turns to the girl and thanks her for telling him many things. He also explains that, as the girl knows, he has lived alone in this castle for a long time, so there are many things he does not know. Ayla says that a great magician like Daiki shouldn't act like that. The boy denies it and says that he really doesn't know anything. He only saved Mar and the others because Ayla was there. He smiles and thanks the girl. The girl gets embarrassed and says that Daiki has nothing to apologize for because she doesn't deserve it, so there's no point. She also thinks that she is a person unworthy of the boy's kindness. Daiki then asks Ayla what she would think of the story of the man who returned after death. The girl gets scared and asks if this is some kind of horror story. Daiki gives a negative answer and asks the girl to forget his words. He thinks he can't just go up to everyone and tell them that he actually died once. The castle is amazing, of course, but he just got it and doesn't even know how it works. It will be bad if they ever ask him to use magic. But they call him the Great Magician. Suddenly, a huge number of warnings appear. An unknown voice says that there is a warning that an object is approaching ahead, so the young man must check it right now. The young man tries to understand and suggests that it might be another dragon, but suddenly, he sees a man in the sky. The young man is surprised that there is a flying man in front of him. Ayla says that it is a magician flying. The young man is surprised that he sees a real magician. The magician turns back and asks His Majesty to disappear from sight. On the throne sat the king, who looked at the castle with crazy eyes. Daiki didn't understand what was happening because the king's creepy smile was directed straight at him. A few hours ago, an alarm was declared in the city of Vish. The knights tried to understand what was happening, while others transmitted to everyone that an unidentified object had been spotted. They said that an unidentified flying object was flying straight towards them. At this time, everyone was gathering in the king's hall. The man, bending down on one knee, turned to His Majesty and said that he thanked him for allowing them to come to him for an audience. The king was sitting on a large and rich throne, and next to him were 4 beautiful girls, wearing very light white clothes. The king asked why they had disturbed him. He narrows his eyes and says that he will not forgive the man if he disturbed him for some trifle. The man said that a messenger had arrived to him, who reported a flying object heading straight here from the south. According to the report, the object was already above the city of Vesh. The king asked if the man was mistaken and that the object was not a flying magician, but a flying object. The man replied that this is what was written in the report. The king forces a terrifying smile and says that this is very interesting. He asks how fast the object flies. The man replies that it is faster than a horse and most likely will reach the imperial capital tomorrow. The king starts to giggle and then laugh throughout the throne room. He calls out to Ifa and suddenly a man appears. The king orders him to gather his subordinates at once. He thinks that those magicians have nothing to do. The man says that he understands everything. The king orders him to prepare to fly because he wishes to look at the above-mentioned object. Also says that of course he will accompany them because he wants to find out the truth for himself. The male servant asks if His Majesty is really going to go too. He says that it is extremely dangerous, and they cannot allow the king to approach such a suspicious object if there is even a chance that something could happen to His Majesty. The king suddenly changed his look to one of intimidation and asked if the male servant really dared to contradict him just now. The man says that he would never do such a thing. Suddenly, the king raises his hand and begins to cut the air with his finger. Suddenly, the male servant was grabbed by the guards. He shouted that it was just a misunderstanding. The king told him to enjoy what was inherent in them. He asks that isn't this what makes a person what he is? The man asks him to stop, but the king asks if he really dares to interfere with his fun. In the end, the man was executed right there on the spot. Ifa watched what was happening, but an emotion of anger appeared on his face. After a while, Ifa and His Majesty were right in front of the flying castle. The king enjoyed seeing the floating island and the huge castle right on top of it. He saw a castle in the sky and cried because it was a beautiful sight. Suddenly, he said that he wanted to get this castle. He went completely mad and said that he needed to take possession of this flying castle. His laughter echoed throughout the area. Daiki looked at the surveillance screen that showed the king's face and asked Ila why the old man was laughing. He also said that it seemed like he wasn't going to stop. He also looks at Ifu and says that the king scares him, and next to him there's a long-eared, handsome man who looks very strong. He thought that in this world there were not only beastmen, but also other races. Meanwhile, Ayla was shaking all over and looking at the screen. She called the man on the throne the Emperor. She remembered a moment from her past and froze. Daiki approached her and asked if she was okay. The girl began to cry and then reached out to the boy but stopped. She thought that someone like her had no right to rely on anyone. The girl apologizes and suddenly begins to fall. She is caught by A1. Daiki orders the robot to take Ila to the healing chamber. He realized that she looked extremely scared. He realized that the old man had an extremely terrifying aura. He looked like the type of person who would have fun crushing others at that moment. He had the typical face of a villain. He asks to pinch him. They encountered such an event right after they entered the Brow Empire. This means that they will all be careful with them. He thinks that everyone would be careful if they saw a flying castle. However, if the Empire does attack them, the castle has a barrier against these attacks and also has first-class golems. It might be good. They were able to defeat even the dragon before it attacked, so even if the Empire attacks them, everything will be fine. He never thought that the castle could be attacked. Besides, other people and creatures. Suddenly, someone called Daiki. Mare saw Ila and asked what happened. The young man said that it seemed that she was very nervous and fainted. They would take her to the healing capsule, and the young man would check her there. Smee said that the girl was probably scared by those flying guys. Mir asked Daiki if he was a mage. Lan says that they are all fine and that mage is descending. Daiki says that he is glad to hear it. Daiki then says that it seems like a mage from the Brow Empire has come to scout them out. All the beastmen are scared to hear that the mage is from the Brow Empire. Silence falls. Daiki shouts that everything will be fine and they shouldn't worry. They will be perfectly safe as long as they stay inside the castle. Tulane says she thinks the boy is right. This is the castle of the Great Master Mage, so everything will be all right in the end. Snee shouts that she saw golems in the room, and there are a lot of them. Tulane was surprised that the young man controls them on his own, and Mare said that the Master Magician is truly amazing. They realized that they would be fine as long as they stayed here. After some time, the young man is next to the healing capsule in which Ayla is located. He sees the girl lying and crying. Daiki understands that he has to protect them all. They came all this way and decided to live here, in this castle. She must protect this place for everyone, and he needs to bring Ayla home safe. He also thinks, looking at her, that he can bet that he will miss her. But this castle has great power, and one and other golems can instantly fight off people. But the one who can control them all is only himself. The young man wonders if he can really control this enormous force. Then he realizes that worrying alone won't help, and he needs to take immediate action. He runs away and asks A1 to take care of Ayla. He must learn everything about this castle and take full control of it. The young man enters the control and observation room and orders the system to open all data about the castle. A huge number of monitors with various information about the castle appear in front of him. The young man realized that angel, she certainly did a great job. There were so many things he could do in this castle. It would be extremely difficult to remember all this countless information. But that's okay, because this castle is the main character's dream. He will happily study all its functions. It is given by nature that a person needs to have fun, so the hero also wants to have fun with everyone. After some time, Ila woke up in her bed. She realized that she had lost consciousness again. She felt very sad about this and asked herself why she was such a coward. The girl walks along the corridors and realizes that A1 is not here. Then she thinks to visit Mr. Daiki. The girl enters the control and observation room and sees Daiki, who has fallen asleep right on the chair. She looks at Daiki, and he starts talking in his sleep that he must protect everyone, because this place is absolutely safe. The girl understands that she needs to cover the young man with something. She starts to spin around and suddenly A1 appears next to her. He brings a blanket, and the girl thanks the robot. She covers Daiki with a blanket and strokes his head, and thanks him from the bottom of her heart. At this time, the king in the castle went completely mad. He repeated over and over again that the flying castle was beautiful. He says the castle will be his. He wants it, and he will make it his no matter what. All the servants were horrified. The king turns to Ifa and tells him to take his men at once and capture this castle. He also says that they will be able to capture it easily. Ifa agrees. The king points his finger at the magician and says that he must complete this task right now, not only for him, but also for Ifa's family, or rather for all the elves. He asks the young man to take his ring with him. It is a national treasure. He asks him to take care of this ring and protect it. If they manage to capture the castle, the king will think about making this elf a citizen of the first rank. Ifa holds out his hands and says that he will do his best to live up to the king's expectations. The king pokes the elf in the forehead with his cane and says that he is counting on him. Ifa comes out of the king's room. A girl calls out to him and says that it seems that His Majesty wants a new toy. It seems that the new toy she has prepared for him will not suit his taste. Ifa asks General Violet what she means by the toy. The girl says that she means the kingdom of Atoll. She's going to offer this kingdom to His Majesty in the near future. Their border is close, and they are so weak that fighting them does not even count as training. She then asks about the rumor about the flying castle, and then asks if Ifa and His Majesty really believed it. The boy says that, frankly, it is beyond their abilities because the castle uses a complex magic formula that he has never seen before. The girl did not think that it would go this far. Ifa also says that, if he is not mistaken, he saw a small golem on that island. The girl smirks and says that Ifa was the one who sparked her interest. Ifa says that no matter how advanced their technology is, they won't be able to defeat them. The girl answers because her imperial golems are the strongest in the world. The main character's name is Shiihara Daiki, who in the ordinary world was just an ordinary government employee. However, he died. It was only because one angel made a mistake and took the soul of a young man by mistake. To cover up her mistake, the angel suggested that the young man send him to another world. And then, having done this, she fulfilled his wish. So eventually, the young man became the owner of a huge flying castle in the sky. There are many doubts, but with an indestructible castle that can fly anywhere, the life of the main character in another world began. Daiki sat in the control and observation room and took notes on all the information about the lock, its functions, etc. He was in despair because he could not remember it. At this time, the Beastmen and Ayla were walking around the castle grounds. Tulane said that there were many buildings here besides the castle itself. Ayla agreed and said that she had not even looked at them herself. There is a mill, a water treatment plant, and a grain storage facility. Mare asked what a mill was. Ayla replied that it was a place where golems made flour, which was the main ingredient for bread and noodles. Schnee said that Mr. Daiki was the one who ran it. The girl wondered how many golems he controlled at once. Then Mare asked Ayla about the next building. Ayla replied that Mr. Daiki said that it was better not to see this building now. So Ayla herself does not know about this building. Schnee thought that maybe there were secret magical items there that the great master magician used. Tulane thought that now that she thought about it, there were farms here, but no livestock anywhere. Suddenly, Mare pointed to the pool and asked what it was. Ayla answered that it was a pool with warm water. They could swim in it. There were also clothes that they could swim in. Ayla asks if they want to try swimming in the pool. Schnee and Mare answer that they really like swimming. Ayla then gave them clothes. Schnee said that they would be swimming in them, and Tulane replied that the clothes were too flashy. Mare turned to Ayla and asked what about the lady. She invited the girl to swim with them. Ayla hesitated and did not know what to answer. Suddenly, she noticed Tulane, who began to change her clothes. On the woman's shoulder was a mark of prohibited goods. The woman asked Ayla if she really hated this mark of prohibited goods. Ayla was scared. The woman said that she could be called a forbidden commodity, but she was ashamed of herself. She was not going to become someone's commodity after all. Moreover, they could live freely in this castle, and it was all thanks to the kindness of Lord Daiki. She says that her life as a protector of the forest temple could have ended, but she decided to do her best to repay Lord Daiki. So she will do everything possible to repay his kindness. After a while, the girls changed their clothes and splashed around happily in the pool. Schnee showed off her graceful swimming skills. Suddenly, Ayla came to the pool. Everyone was amazed at how well the beach suited her. Suddenly, Tulane saw a seal of prohibited goods on Ayla's shoulder, but of a different shape. Suddenly, Mare starts tickling Ayla. The girls are having fun. Lant is embarrassed and turns away, saying that it was a real treat for the eyes, but for some reason, he feels like he shouldn't have seen it. Schnee is surprised by his words. Then, Tulane turns to Ayla and says, calling her mistress, that she thinks the girl has been through a lot, just like all of them. Ayla agrees. Mare says that even if the girl has a mark of a prohibited item, they are currently living above the sky with the master magician, so there is no need to worry about it. She says that Mr. Daiki doesn't care whether you are a prohibited item or not, and he even treats the beastmen normally, so they can live happily here. Ayla agrees, and they all start having fun. The girl thinks that not only Tulane, who has the seal of the forbidden goods, has accepted her, but even Mare has accepted her. She thinks that if she lives above the sky like this, then maybe she can enjoy her life here too. She sighs and says that she wants to stay here, and she really wants to get along with all the inhabitants of this castle. A1 appears next to her. The girl turns to the robot, smiles, and asks him to take care of her from now on too. A1 suddenly extends his hand to the girl. She takes his hand sweetly and smiles. Daiki was watching them at that time and thought that he was glad that they got along. After a while, the table was set with food. Mare devoured the meat because she needed to regain her strength after her bath. Ayla replied that she really liked these noodles. The girls thought that both recipes used soy sauce as a seasoning. Schnee said that she might actually like this soy sauce. Daiki thought it would go well with various dishes made from soybeans. Then he was distracted by Land. The boy asks if Lady Ayla is really connected to the kingdom of Atoll. The girl suddenly becomes frightened and then asks why the boy is interested. Land says that he always heard that the royal family members from the Atoll kingdom have special scarlet hair. But that is not true, because it seems like all people with scarlet hair are from the Atoll kingdom. So he was curious. Schnee told her brother that he shouldn't ask such tactless questions of a woman. Land replied that Schnee herself wasn't interested in knowing about it. They start fighting at the table, and Tulane orders them to stop. Suddenly, Ayla tries to say something and then runs out of the table and asks to forgive her. Daiki tries to stop her. He turns to everyone and asks them to continue eating, and he will be right back. Schnee got angry at her brother because of this, and the young man became limp and said that he was very sorry. Daiki ran with A1 to catch up with Ayla. They met her at the exit of the castle. The girl was shaking all over and asked Daiki for forgiveness, saying that she was very sorry. The young man said that he would not ask about anything that the girl did not want to talk about. He did not mind her past, no matter what happened. He invited her to come back and eat with everyone. A1 takes Daiki's hand and holds it out to Ayla. The boy smiles back. Ayla, with tears in her eyes, also holds out her hand. Ayla then says that she lied to Daiki. She says that she is not a simple village girl. In fact, she is the princess of the Atule kingdom. Her full name is Leticia Ayla Atule. She is a wicked sinner who betrayed her country. The girl's name is Leticia Ayla Atuli from the kingdom of Atuli, and she is a princess. The girl has always lived peacefully in the castle all her life. The servants always admired her. For example, when she danced, they heard that, as expected from Madame Leticia, she danced gracefully because she was so skilled. The girl replied that she simply liked to dance, and that she was not worthy of such praise. The servants again encouraged her and asked her not to be so modest. Suddenly, the girl saw her father in the window and called him, but the man did not react to her in any way. Suddenly, her peaceful life came to an end when her father told the girl about the wedding. The man said that there was a letter from the fourth prince of the Brow Empire, and the message was instructed to be given to Leticia. It was a proposal of marriage. Ayla asked if the fourth Prince Brow already had many wives, because she heard that he already had more than 15. The king reported that it seemed that the number of wives had decreased. Ayla asked what this meant, but the king replied that there was no need to discuss the matter further. The girl tried to stop her father, but he looked at her menacingly and said that it was all for the sake of the kingdom of Atul. He will make sure that the girl marries into the Brow Empire, because that has always been her duty. He knows that the girl already understands her position, since he raised her that way, so he will not accept his daughter's refusal. The girl replied that she understood. After some time, the maids congratulated the girl on her wedding. The girl thanked them, but said that it did not yet seem like reality. Ayla did not want to marry the fourth prince because she did not understand what it would be like to marry someone she had never met before. The girl then decided to ask the maids what the fourth prince was like. She had just heard before that he had taken many women as his brides, so she didn't know if she would be able to get along with his other wives. The maids said that of course Ayla would get along with everyone, and they would accompany her as personal servants. They hug the girl and say that they will not let their princess feel lonely. Then a messenger appears nearby and says that a gift has arrived from the fourth prince of the Brow Empire for Lady Letitia. The letter said that the box contained a ring to celebrate their engagement. The maid said that it was a wonderful gift, and then they asked the princess to open the box quickly. Ayla opened the box a little and saw a ring there, which was located on the severed finger. She and the maids screamed in horror. The girls realized that it was a severed finger. The messenger also said that he had received a letter, so he would read it. The letter was addressed to Dear Princess Leticia. The fourth prince was very happy to welcome someone as beautiful and talented as the princess to his castle, so he gives his princess one of his treasures. The previous recipient can no longer be of use, so he is looking forward to playing with her after he puts this ring on his finger. Ayla did not understand what it meant to play. The messenger continued and said that to mark the proof of their engagement, he would send his servants to her castle in the near future. He looked forward to the day when he could meet the girl in person. Ayla asked what the prince meant by celebrating the proof of their engagement, since hadn't he already given her this ring? The messenger said that the servants who would arrive were the Empire's magicians, so they would come to put a mark of forbidden goods on their princess. Ayla was shocked by this. One of the maids asked what the messenger meant, since Ayla is the princess of the kingdom, and why should she be marked as a prohibited item? She orders him to take those words back right now if he doesn't want to be punished. The envoy was trembling all over. He said that he was really very sorry, but it was true. His Majesty had already prepared to welcome Namir. The girl realized that her father dared to sell her as a forbidden commodity. After that, the girl learned about rumors that the fourth prince of the Brow Empire is a cold-blooded man who enjoys torturing his wives until their death. Just like his father Kentis, he doesn't treat people like people. He's just a monster, and the girl's father knew it. She knew that if this happened, his daughter would be killed. After some time, the Empire's mages arrived. Ayla begged her father not to do this, but the man only turned away at the moment when they put a seal on the girl's shoulder. After some time, the maids asked the princess to allow them to take her to the room, but Ayla refused. The girl said that she would be drawn into this and killed too, but she did not want this to happen, so she would not take any of the servants with her, but would go to the Empire alone. The girl headed to the carriage. The maids silently sobbed, seeing off their princess. Ayla said goodbye to her dear friends, to her beloved homeland, and to her father. She does not think that she will ever see any of them again. After some time, Ayla was taken to the hotel. She asked the guards if they really would stay there for the night. The man replied that it was absolutely right because the Brow Empire was still far away, so it was necessary to rest here. He said that the girl could use this room and have a good rest. After a while, the girl looked out the door and thought about why no one was watching her. She didn't want to be killed, and she didn't want to die. The girl thought about her duty, that for the sake of the kingdom, she must die. But did she really have to die? The girl looked at the ring on her hand. She left him and ran away through the door. She thought only that she did not want to die, but wanted to live. She dreamed only of those peaceful days returning. Then Ayla told Daiki that after that she was on the run for several days, and then ended up on a cliff, and then Daiki saved her. The young man looked at the girl with sadness and thanked her for telling him all this. He said it must have been difficult for her. The girl said she was a terrible sinner who had betrayed her country only because she was too attached to her life. She is the one who is better off dead, because if she doesn't go to the Brow Empire, then her country will be destroyed. Daiki hugged her and said that everything was okay and the girl could relax because it was safe here. He would do everything he could and would definitely help her. The girl began to cry. After some time, they returned to the dining room. Daiki says that they are back. All the beastmen are happy. Lant begins to apologize to Ayla and says that he is very sorry for his impudent question. Ayla says that he does not have to apologize, since it was she who suddenly ran away. Mare looks at the girl's tear-stained face and says that she warmed up her food. Ayla says that everything is fine and then thanks the girl. She thanks from the bottom of her heart everyone who is here. After a while, everyone starts to leave, and Daiki notices A1 standing by the window. He approaches the golem to find out why it is building there. However, he sees a huge number of knights on the ground and a girl who says that they will bring the king the head of the magician who dared to look down on the empire. She also says that they will take over the kingdom of Atul. Mare looked at Ayla. She thought that now she knew that Ayla was a real princess. For some reason, she was starting to get nervous. Ayla says that Mera is simply amazing and quickly copes with her task. The girl replied that this is because she is used to doing this, since she has been helping her mother since childhood. Ayla says that this is wonderful. The girl must have helped Tulane a lot, and she is sure of it. Then Mera asks what about Mrs. Ayla and whether she helps her parents in any way. Ayla said that she studied very hard and thought that she would be able to help her father in the future. She hoped that she would be able to help the kingdom that her father ruled. However, she did not even know how the citizens of the kingdom actually lived. She didn't know how to cook, clean, wash before she came here. In the end, Mr. Daiki had to teach her everything. She tried to do the same as everyone else. However, she can't even do the basic things that normal people do. Ayla thinks she's really that useless. Mare says that's not true at all. Ayla talks like she can't do anything, but isn't she capable of a lot now? She just needs to learn to do the things she can't do, then use them. Mare suggests to Ayla that they do their best together. Ayla is touched and begins to cry. Tulane says that she will also do her best to help the two of them. Finally, their snack is ready, so they have to eat with everyone. Ayla says that she will go call Mr. Daiki. At this time, Daiki was in the control and observation room and watched the battle between the knights. He could not believe that this was all real. Here is a battle between two armies on the ground. Ahead is the castle of the kingdom of Atul, which Ayla spoke of because this kingdom is her homeland. The knights who were sitting in ambush asked each other what the invaders meant by handing over Princess Letitia to them. The knights thought that the enemies had probably been targeting Atul from the very beginning. Even Princess Letitia's wedding was definitely the Empire's doing. Moreover, they branded her with a seal of forbidden goods. There is no way the Empire would let her escape so easily. Atuli would never harbor a royal with a brand of prohibited goods. They probably just made up some excuse to attack them. The knight also suggested that most likely Princess Letitia was killed by the Empire, and they just wanted to create a reason to attack the kingdom of Atul. The knight shouted that all citizens of their capital had to be evacuated and taken to Felby, because soon the capital would turn into a battlefield. Another knight said that it was useless because they had just received a message that the Empire had been spotted around the city of Felby. They were all already like dead men. The residents began to cry at this news. The girl from the Empire assumed that the kingdom was planning to take them under siege by force. She was disappointed, because for their army and her golems, such a wall was just a piece of paper. She ordered the golem to attack. The golem immediately knocks an arrow and releases it from the bow, destroying the city wall. The knight could not believe that the wall was destroyed. He realized that it was the Empire's golem army that did it. The girl said that she didn't like to bully the weak, but regardless, they would seize the lands and hand them over to the emperor. She orders everyone to move out and says that her imperial golems are the strongest. Daiki watched this whole battle. He realized that Atul's defensive wall had been destroyed, no matter how it looked from one side. But if it was left alone, there are still civilians in a capital, meaning that not only soldiers, but also civilians will be victims. Daiki decides that he must save them all. The imperial golems are really strong. Even the attack they used to destroy the wall makes him tremble in fear. A1 might not be able to stop it, but if he tried, he could. Buy them time to escape. He calls out to A1, but the robot immediately puts its hand on his shoulder. At this time, Ayla turns to Mr. Daiki and asks him to let her go there. The girl apologizes and says that she has been looking at the screen for a long time. If she had given herself to the Empire, then this war could have ended. She prolonged her life because of her own selfishness, and that fact in itself gave her too much. She was really happy that we were able to come here and stayed here until the very end. She bows to the floor and begs to be allowed to fulfill her role because she wants to save the citizens of her kingdom. The boy says he can't do it. Ayla continues to beg him. Daiki asks the girl if she could hand him over to the enemy if she knew he would be killed. He says that perhaps the girl's father has decided to hand her over to the Empire. He has decided to sacrifice you for the sake of the citizens, and the young man feels that this is precisely the king's sense of justice. Daiki says that he has no right to judge this, but nevertheless, he would like to find another option. The young man says that he will definitely figure this out, but it may take time, but he will definitely save this country. Daiki asks Ila to believe him. The girl says that she believes the young man, but she is very worried. The Empire has set its sights on this castle. If they do something like this, they will have a reason to attack them. The girl asks Daiki if he knows how strong the Empire is. She has said this before, but an empire is a country that tramples and destroys other countries for their own good. No matter how strong this castle is, it does not mean that it is completely safe from the Empire. To resolve this issue, it would be better to hand the girl over to the Empire. She does not want to put all the people of this castle in danger, as well as the citizens of the Kingdom of Atul and all the good and beautiful people. She loves them. The girl also says that she does not want Mr. Daiki to die. The boy smiles and says that he will not die because he has already returned from the dead and been reborn. The girl does not understand what the boy means. Daiki's life ended so suddenly, but now he is here in another world, and he wants to live in a way that he can protect others. He wants all the people dear to him to be able to live happily. He wishes for such a life. He will do everything possible, so Ayla can just pray to the angel for victory. Daiki thought he acted so cool, although he doesn't know how things will turn out. He thinks of himself as such an upstart. However, he has no desire to speak and not act, so he will do it and save everyone. He thought he was just buying time for the citizens to escape, but he decided to end this war. The young man turns to A1 and tells him that he will tell him the plan. After a while, they shake hands and Daiki says that he is counting on his partner. At this time, the golem threw back the little boy. He was about to kill him, but suddenly a bright flash appeared in the sky. It was A1. The robot instantly destroyed the golem with one blow of his hand. The girl was amazed by what she just saw. After killing the Imperial Golem, A1 was attacked by two other golems, but the robot used a spell and destroyed one of the attackers. Another golem appeared behind A1, but the robot easily destroyed it too. The girl was shaking with horror. She could not believe that her golems were destroyed. She began to ask the magicians what kind of golem this was. The men answered her that they did not know. The scouts had not reported anything like that to them. The report said nothing about such golems. The girl demanded to know what kind of monster it was. Then the magician said that he would stop him with his golem. The girl said that no action could be taken without her consent. Another man said that he would support his comrade with his golem. They, though, to press A1. Eventually, two Imperial golems fall on A1 and pin the robot to the ground. The men rejoice that they were able to pin down the enemy golem. Eyes light up, and he stands up, pushing away his opponents with his magical power. Daiki says to AL1 that the Imperial army has retreated to Falba. He has already sent reinforcements to the capital. Suddenly, an entire army of robots similar to the A1 appeared in the sky. Daiki was sure that they would drive the Empire out of the capital. The golems began to attack the Empire's army. The girl did not understand what kind of nonsense this was, because it was impossible. She did not understand where this magician got so many golems from, and if only they could find him and kill him. Suddenly, she lifts her head up and sees a huge flying castle above her. She realized that this was the very flying castle that His Majesty wanted to capture. The mages turned to General Violet and asked her to give a new order. The girl was furious. She considered all this unforgivable. The truth is that they came here without the support of the main forces, and it is not the golems' fault. The Imperial golems are still the strongest, and the girl is still the strongest. She can't accept this. She wants to bring this magician down to earth and show who's boss here. At this time, Ifa was in the sky. He was looking at the huge flying castle. The knights of the kingdom said that the Imperial army had retreated. Their commander-in-chief could not believe that they were saved. Suddenly, he notices a squad of robots similar to A1. He couldn't understand what kind of golems they were. The knight said that there was no guarantee that those golems were their allies. If those golems started attacking them, it would be bad. Suddenly, the boy whom A1 saved runs up to them. He smiled and thanked him for saving him. A1 stroked the boy's head, and all the knights were shocked by what they saw. Suddenly, all the villagers surrounded A1 and thanked him for saving them. Then suddenly, one knight turned to General Ducal and said that there was a message from His Majesty. General Hillard of Falby would soon return. They were ordered to establish contact for negotiations with the owner of the castle. The general was surprised by this and asked if Falby was not under attack by the Empire. He was told that from their report it became known that the golems had saved them too. Ducal thought that if these golems had not come to save them, this country might have fallen into the hands of the Empire. He thinks about his king Lazente and says that he thought he had escaped, but now he thinks that the king remained in the capital. The king sacrificed his daughter, and now, because of this, their country is in danger. The general tries to understand what the king is thinking about now. A voice was heard from A1. The general was shocked that the golem had just said something. Daiki's voice is heard from the golem. The young man says that it is not the golem speaking. He is using a telephone connection. The citizens did not understand what kind of connection the young man was talking about. But Daiki does not answer this question and says that he is the owner of that flying castle, and he does not mind talking to these people. The young man says that he has something for them and he wants to talk to them in person, so welcome to his castle. Isla asked what Daiki had in mind. The young man smiled and said that everything was fine and the girl could leave it all to him. Sometime later at the dinner table, Daiki tells the beastmen that they have successfully saved the Aluta kingdom and fought off the imperial army. Mare asked the young man to wait, and Land asked what Daiki was talking about. While they were talking about taking care of the farm and relaxing over tea, and while they were talking about what they would have for dinner, Daiki saved the country. The young man says that, how can I say it? They just went with the flow, and it was all thanks to the golems in A1. Because of this, some important people from the kingdom will come to this castle for negotiations. He doesn't know what kind of people will come, but he just wanted the guys to know that there will be guests. Mare looks at Ila. The girl looks rather sad. Daiki asks Taling what happened. The woman replies that they might not make it in time. If they started cooking for their guests right away, she might be able to make a meal that they would really like. They ponder what to cook, but Daiki says that it would be better to give some of the vegetables from their farm to the people of Aluta. The city was destroyed, and many people had lost their homes, so he was sure that they would be in great trouble with food. They needed to be helped by distributing as much food as possible. Ilo was touched. Daiki says they still have some wheat and rice stocks, so they can give away some of their stocks. Lanf rolled up his sleeves and said he would take care of the vegetables, and Shni said she would handle the wheat and rice. After some time, Daiki thinks that he will talk to some important people from some country, so he is very nervous. He never thought that this would happen in his life. As expected, he must wear formal clothes. It had been so long since he had last seen a suit. He even assumed that he was preparing for a job interview. He suggests starting by imagining the most ideal man he can imagine. He doesn't know to what extent he can change his impression. Daiki tries to concentrate on the fact that the man will do a great job, and that he's very good at negotiations and also strong. Eventually, the young man imagined a very brutal man, and then realized that he needed to stop this and do something more harmless. Suddenly, Ila knocked on his room. The young man asked what had happened, and the girl replied that she was very grateful for saving a lot. Daiki smiles and says that the girl was probably worried. He asks if she really loves this country, to which Ila answers positively. Daiki says that he is very glad that he was able to save her, but all this is just beginning. He asks to just leave everything to him. At this time, the general of the kingdom's night army turns to Girat and says that he is glad to see that the girl is safe. The girl also says that she is glad that the man is safe and sound. The man says that he heard that Falby was also attacked by the Empire, to which the girl replies that it is similar to how it was in the table. The golems came to save them. She can't thank these golems enough, and at the same time she realized how powerless she was. Even though she was left in charge of protecting Falby, she was unable to do anything against the Empire's army. The man said that instead of thinking about that, she should think about negotiating with the owner of the flying castle. That's what matters most now. If the reason they broke off the war was because they wanted to invade them, then they'll have to bow to something more terrifying than an empire. The girl turns to Ducal and asks if he seriously thinks there is a possibility of an invasion. The man replies that because of the war with the Empire, their country has been reduced to ruins. It will be easy for them to pretend that they are saving them. In this way, they can take control of them. No one is so soft as to save others and get nothing in return. They must be up to something. The girl asks if the man is sure. Ducal says that they have come to the appointed place, but how can they get to the castle? Because it is high in the sky. The girl suggests that perhaps it will be a form of flight magic. After all, they can make this castle float. They must have a lot of talented magicians there. Suddenly, golems approach them. Daiki tells them not to be afraid of them. For their safety, they must not move. The golems pick up the fragile woman and the huge muscular man in armor in their arms like children, and then take off. Duko feels awkward. After some time, the guests are met by Daiki. He thanks them for their visit, despite the fact that they were busy. The young man says his name is Shiihara Daiki, and says that he is the owner of this castle. The man and woman are surprised that such a young man is the owner of the castle. Suddenly, Girat notices Princess Letitia. She asks why the princess is here. Ayla raises her head and says that she hasn't seen Girat and Dukal for a long time. The man remembers a fragment from the past. Suddenly, tears started to flow from his eyes. Girat was surprised by this man's behavior. Dukal was shaking all over. He said he was very glad the girl was okay. Ayla was surprised. The man said that he thought the princess was killed by the Empire. Ayla also starts crying and says that the man is crying because of someone like her. She thanks him. After some time, they arrive at the negotiation room and sit down at the table. Ayla said that Daiki picked her up when she was running away from the Imperial army. Girat was surprised that the girl was able to escape from the Empire's army on her own. The girl said that she abandoned her royal duty because of her selfish desire to live. Dukal asked the girl if she understood what this meant. Ayla replied that the country would treat her as a rebel and she would be imprisoned for the rest of her life, or even sentenced to death if she returned to her homeland. Daiki said that he would never allow this to happen because the fear of death is natural for everyone. Girat said that Princess Letitia is not an ordinary person. She is a royal person. It is her job to do everything that is necessary for the country. It was her duty to marry into the Empire for the sake of their country, but she put it out of her mind. Daiki wonders why they talk about such an unreasonable duty. Ayla says that, however, because she abandoned her duty, the war happened. Dukal said that the Empire was simply taking advantage of the opportunity. They had clearly been targeting their country for a long time. First of all, it was strange that the princess was able to escape at all. The girl had to be marked as an important person. Even when they came to escort the girl, there were many soldiers to guard her. There is no way they were stupid enough to let the girl go. The girl said they were staying in a hotel, and the truth is there were no soldiers with her then. However, while she was on the run, she heard people in the city talking about the soldiers who accompanied her, saying that they were people from Aluda, and they would be executed for allowing the girl to escape. She thought it was the work of Alet's men. The man replied that there was no chance. That was not true at all. He was very sorry to say this, but even the girl's father, King Ryzen, had not sent a single man to accompany the girl. Girat asked who could be the cause of this. The man replied that he did not know, because that was exactly what they were thinking about as escort soldiers. But this is what is really happening. The young man asks if he can speak. He asks if Ayla will really be treated as a criminal and executed if she returns to her homeland. Girat replies that it is so. The boy then asks why they don't just say that Daiki kidnapped Ella. If so, the girl won't be accused of failing her duty because she was caught by him, so she won't be executed according to the kingdom's laws. The girl says she can't let Daiki desecrate his name like that. The boy says, it's okay. He doesn't have a good name anyway. The girl says that the boy is a great magician. Daiki says that if the girl insists that she has a duty to die, then he would say that his duty is to let the girl live. He has a duty to ensure that the girl can live happily in a safe place where she can relax, and he will fulfill that duty. It's not just Ayla. It's everyone in this castle. Since he saved everyone, he has a duty to take care of them. So he will do his best to make everyone happy. He asks the girl to let him do his duty. Girat asks if the boy is really telling her that he wants to stage a kidnapping. Daiki says that this is his condition of the agreement. He thought it would be better to bring Ayla home, but now it is clear that it is better for her to stay here, so he cannot bring her back. He wants Ayla to live in this castle and be safe, so he doesn't want to make too many enemies. That's why Girat and Dukal have to play their part in this. He asks them to become his accomplices in this difficult matter. After some time, Dukal comes to report to the king. The king asks about the alliance, to which Dukal replies that Daiki said exactly that. He wants to make an alliance between Alet and the floating castle, by allowing him to keep Princess Letitia captive as long as Aluda does not take any hostile action against the floating castle. The king of the flying castle will treat Aluda as an ally. The king's advisor says the Ducal must be joking, because firstly, an alliance must be made when the leaders meet each other directly. The king says that is enough. Ducal continues and says that, in addition, the floating castle sent them gifts, a large amount of food, because he said that the country must be in a lot of trouble now. They will also immediately send some to the capital and to Falpe. The king says that Ducal and Garrett have done a great job in this matter. He looks at the beautiful lily in the vase and remembers his daughter. At this time, Ila thanked Daiki. She said that she had nothing to thank him for what he had done today. She asks the young man to let her use the rest of her life to repay his kindness. The young man says that the girl does not have to be so formal, but he is glad that the girl has become more energetic. She sits down next to him and happily watches as the hero sips lemonade from a can. Dance said that he was very eager to see how Lord Daiki's golems would save Alut. Tulane said that, in any case, she was very glad that Alut had made an alliance with this castle. This means that other countries will see that Alut now has a strong ally. Dalt says that he heard that their life was very hard, as they were oppressed by the Empire. He hopes that after the victory, things will be much better for them. Mayor says that even if they try to take revenge, Lord Daiki is with them. Everything will be fine. After all, Lord Daiki's golems are very strong. Dunt asked Mayor why she was bragging about it. After some time, Ayla came. The girl said that the beastmen had done a great job today. Dunt asked if the girl had finished cleaning. Ayla replied that she had finished washing the dishes. Then the girl asked if she could have some more vegetables. Lance said that the girl could take these dreams because in any case, all this was for Mr. Daiki first and foremost. Mare asked Ela what she was going to do with the vegetables. Ela became embarrassed and said that she wanted to ask Mare a favor. The girl asks about food for Mr. Daiki. Ela says that he understands perfectly well that he cooks badly, but she wants to somehow repay Mr. Daiki. She remembers the recipe that Mr. Daiki taught her. The girl wants Mare to watch her. The girl asks if the girl really just wants Mare to watch her. Ayla says that it would be very helpful if Mare would stop Ayla before he does something wrong. But she believes that everything will go fine if she follows the recipe. Then Ayla starts to panic and says that the power of the flame, the size of the piece, and many other things. She's afraid that she will ruin everything. The girl then apologizes and asks Mare if she can borrow the girl's time for a little while. Mare smiles and says that of course it's okay since they are all comrades living together in this castle. Besides, she is also curious about this recipe that Mr. Daiki showed to Ale, so she offers to do her best. Isla says that she has already collected the vegetables and now they need meat and rice. Mare says that there seems to be some rice left in the kitchen, and as for the meat, they can go to the warehouse. Now that the girl said that, Mare never went into the room where the meat was kept. Ela says that she was never there either. Mr. Daiki always went alone to get the meat. After some time, Ela and Mare came to the place where Daiki gets meat. Ela says that there is some kind of creepy atmosphere in this place. Mare also understands that this place is quite creepy. Then the girls reach the places where the chicken drew. Ayla says that the girl is right, which means that chicken meat is stored here. They look at an unknown flask with liquid, in which something is being formed. Suddenly, a chicken wrapped in film appears on a tray from the apparatus. Ela looks at the unknown product and wonders if it is seriously chicken meat. Mare says that she does not know. All she saw was that some bubbles appeared in the water. The girl then says that she is now afraid to eat meat. Ela consoles her and says that everything is fine, and if they ate it and nothing happened to them, then everything is fine. Besides, Daiki would never feed them anything harmful. Then the girls got eggs from somewhere and got scared. The next moment, Ayla was cutting onions and said that she was going to cry. Mare asked her to continue in the same spirit and to hurry. After some time, Ela cooked something really cool. She came to the control and observation room to tell Daiki that dinner was ready. Mare watched Ela and thought that the girl would do her best. The girl told Daiki that if he didn't mind, she would bring him food. Then the girl brings the dish, and Daiki asks Ella if she made it herself. The girl said that she is still inexperienced, so he cannot make an omelet as well as Daiki. The young man immediately begins to taste and thanks Ayla for the dish, and then wishes himself a bon appetit. He smiles and says that this omelet is very tasty and the girl really cooks well. Ayla was embarrassed and said that it was all thanks to Mare. She helped her make this dish. Then Daiki turns to Mare and says, "Why doesn't she join them?" The girl realized that she was exposed. The young man smiles and thanks both girls for what they did for him. Mare and Ayla hugged. Mare told Ayla that it was very cool, and the girl replied that it was all thanks to Mare's help. Daiki ate his omelet and thought that everything was very calming. Ayla and Mare were a little awkward at first, but they seem to be getting along really well, and it seems like they do not rire anymore, so the hero is very happy. Mare said that according to her mother, the castle would soon reach the Relabras mountain range. Daiki said that after Mare's words, he remembered that he seemed to see some large mountains on the way. The Relabras mountain range is the place where the god worshipped by the Mare tribe is said to live. Daiki remembered that he had seen the beastmen offer prayers in the morning and evening. It seemed that in that case they were praying to the god who lived in these mountains. Now he understood everything. In order to pay homage to their god, they would refrain from flying over the ridge. Mare said that after they passed the ridge, they would reach the imperial country of Fleta. Ayla said that it was the southernmost country on this continent. It had a warm climate and many rivers. It was known to be easy to live there. The girl also heard that there were magicians in this country. Daiki said that it sounded interesting. He suggested paying a visit to this empire. After all, they needed to replenish their supplies. After some time, they arrive at the imperial country of Fleta. Daiki was looking forward to it. At this time, all the people in the city were panicking about the fact that there was an unknown flying object in the sky. People were running around in panic and trying to figure out what was going on and what that thing was in the sky. The ruler of the country was squeezing his servant and ordering him to tell him what was going on. The servant turned to His Highness and said that he was suffocating. There was also a girl there who said that Brother Janul and Mr. Ditson seemed to be having fun. Daiki suddenly woke up and interrupted his beautiful dream. He went to the window, smiled, and wondered if he had really overslept. The young man opens the window, steps onto the windowsill, but suddenly slips and begins to fall. The hero is caught by A1. Daiki thanks him for saving him. Ayla also runs into the room and asks if Mr. Daiki is okay. The young man apologizes for the noise he made and says that he is okay. He apologizes for oversleeping anyway and then asks if they are hungry. Tulane laughs and says that it is okay since Mira and Tulane made breakfast and they all ate already. Daiki is very happy about this. Ayla says that they also prepared for Mr. Daiki. The young man thanks them all. He says that although he is responsible for breakfast, he is very sorry. Ayla tells the young man not to mention it because, after all, Lord Daiki was busy taking care of the castle until late at night, so the girl asks him to get a good rest. As for food, she may not be able to handle it, but she will definitely do it with everyone she asks to provide it to them. The problem between the Kingdom of Aluda and the Brow Empire has been temporarily resolved, so Ayla has become much more lively and cheerful. She no longer looks depressed as before. The young man is not sure that someone from another world like him should interfere in the affairs of another world. But he is happy that with his arrival in this castle, he was able to save people's lives. Daiki also thinks that he should express his gratitude to A1. Ayla looks at the monitors and asks the boy if he was controlling the quadcopters until late at night, or more specifically, that flying golem. Daiki replies that he explored the city. He sent some of them to the imperial country of Fleta. It is a large country and the citizens seem to live happily. The children were so interested in the quadcopter that they even started running after it. Then Mera comes into the room and tells the gentleman that he is awake. She then offers to look at how much fruit they have picked today. Ayla took an apple and said that it had such a nice aroma and they must be very tasty. Mera said that it must be because of the castle's power. The trees were bearing fruit faster than usual. Daiki said that this fruit was called an apple. As an apology for oversleeping, the young man offers to make everyone an apple pie. It will be even tastier if they eat it with ice cream. Mira was eager and asked if ice cream was sweet. Daiki explained that ice cream was a sweet snack. The girl replied that he was looking forward to it. At that moment, archers began to attack the quadcopter. The men shouted at the children to stay back, but the children sighed and said it was no fun. The man turned to the quadcopter and called it a mysterious flying object. They didn't care if it was a monster or not. Then the greatest magician of this country appeared, Mr. Ditson, who will stop the object. The man thought about what this object increased the pressure on him. He doesn't know what he will do if he fails in front of the citizens. First of all, what is this? It is certainly not a living creature. but he has never heard of flying golems before. However, they may exist. If we take into account the technology of the Brow Empire and the magical country of Tellsvale, but if they are really the ones who made it for intelligence, they will use it in secret. If this is really a golem with new technology, then it shows the interest of the magician. He, as a magician, will investigate it further. He is very excited now. His look changes and he thinks that now he is really excited and he will catch it. He will definitely catch it. The man uses a magical ability and directs the attack directly at the object. The man said that the magician used wind magic. However, it didn't work. The quadcopter remained unharmed. The magician was simply amazed by all this incredible action. This golem is strong enough to reflect his magic. He thinks about who could have created this magnificence. The people standing on the ground said that no matter what, they had to continue the magic arrows. The magician started shouting and asking what the people were doing because they could hurt him too from such an attack. People hit the quadcopter with an arrow, but it just flips over. The magician began to ask irritably what people were doing, because they could have broken this golem. People asked if they were not here to destroy this thing. Then they shout and ask to look at the flying object. It turned out that all these magic arrows did not help to defeat the golem. The magician began to cry and shout that he wanted this golem for himself. Then the ruler of that country appeared and asked what Ditson was doing. He asked if the magician knew what it was. The magician said that he had not the slightest idea what it was. His Highness started shouting about why the magician doesn't know what it is. He says I'll just look for himself. The magician asked what kind of nonsense he was talking. The magician says that he cannot allow His Majesty to be exposed to danger. His safety is their top priority. His Majesty orders no excuses to be made now. The man turns to the magician and says that he can't fly, so Ditson must make it so that he can fly and see what it is. The magician replies that he will never do that. It is very difficult to make a person fly, especially two. His Majesty says that in that case, the magician should simply lift it and fly. Ditson says that he humbly refuses to carry out this order, exercising his right of refusal. His Majesty starts shouting that this is cruel and impolite. This is very rude. Then Yuri comes up to the ruler and asks his brother to calm down. Yanwell apologizes and says that Dyson is very frivolous. Dyson says that it doesn't matter how Yanwell looks at it, but he is not serious. His Majesty ordered Dyson to be silent. Yuri says that she is so happy that Yanwell gets along so well with Dick and asked how about his flight magic. The man lit up from this. Then an aura of magical power appeared around Yuri and said that here they are. Then she cast magic on Yanwell and he flies straight into the sky. Dickel started to cry, and Yuri laughed and said that Ditson understood at least something about this thing. Suddenly, Yanwell appears at the quadcopter. Daiki, Mare and Ayla are watching the screen from the observation and control room. Daiki says that the moment they took their eyes off him, they started playing with the drone. Ayla says that, how can I say this? These people are really unusual. Mare called them weirdos. The drone approached the magician Ditson. There was a paper attached to its jaws. The magician began to shake and took the paper from the drone. It said that if the country's residents agreed to listen to the drone owner's request, they could come in a small group to the beach southeast of the eastern castle tomorrow morning. Then a sound was heard from the drone. The magician began to shout in delight. People did not understand what was happening to the magician, but at that time, the young man was thinking about the fact that they were here. He finally made contact with the unknown. The man shouted that he, Ditson, would definitely come. At this time, Yuri and Yanwell were watching him. After observing the mysterious flying golem, the time has come and contact with the golem's creator will finally be made. He must ask them how this golem works at any cost, and if possible, he will make their knowledge his own. Then Janual appears behind Ditson and says that he is a suspicious man. The magician got scared and said that he is not a suspicious man. He is a resident of this country. Then Ditson notices the prince, and the young man shouts for Yuri to act immediately. The girl snatches something from the magician's hands. Yanwell said that this letter is really from the creator of that golem. He asks why the magician didn't tell him about it. He knows that they are of interest to him too. It was very cunning on the part of the magician to keep everything a secret. The young man replied that if he had told Yanwell that, it would have been unpleasant. Yanwell said that the magician was stupid. And did he really call himself a magician who served this country? Yuri also said that it was bad of him. One appeared in the sky. Ditsun was simply shocked by what he saw and began to jump from place to place. Yanwal ordered Ditsun to stop jumping. Then, Awan takes Yuri in his arms. The girl asks if the golem really wants to carry her. Ditsun opens his arms and thinks about the golem hugging him, and very tenderly. Genuel tells Ditsun that he is really just sick. Then the golem approaches Ditsun and the man says that he loves this golem. After some time, Yenwal, Ditsun, and Yuri were flying on golems in the sky. Then they saw a beautiful castle. Yuri and Yenwal saw this castle, and it seemed very beautiful to them. Yanuel turns to Ditsun and asks him to look at this castle. At this time, Ditsun was unconscious, and Yanuel even thought that he was dead. At this time, Daiki greeted the guests and waved his hand to them. Daiki thanked the guests for accepting his invitation. Daiki then asked what happened to Ditsun. Yenwal apologizes to Daiki and tells him to just ignore that stupid man. He said that they read Daiki's letter. He's the younger brother of the emperor of the Fleda country and also the head of the eastern castle. His name is Yenuel, and next to him is his younger sister named Yuri. Daiki thought, doesn't this mean that they are a prince and princess? Daiki said that he is the owner of the flying castle, Shiihara Daiki. The prince realized that this meant that he is the lord of this castle. They shake hands, and Daiki says it's nice to meet you, and Yanuel reciprocates. Yanuel thinks that he does not feel any wariness from him, and he is dressed in clothes that the young man has never seen before. And what kind of picture is painted on the clothes? Suddenly, Ditsun screamed and saw a small robot. Daiki said that it was a worker golem. Ditsun realized that not only the small flying golem and the humanoid golem, but the young man also had other types of golems. Ditsun asks how many more golems are in this castle, and then passes out. Yuri says that Ditsun is unconscious again. I'll ask to just leave him alone. Daiki then said that before that, he asks to be allowed to apologize. He regrets sending his golems to the imperial country of Fleda without permission. He regrets that he scared them all because he saw them attack the golem, so he is very sorry. Then Yenuel asked why Daiki sent golems in the first place. These golems were just flying around without any purpose. The youth replied that it was his first visit here, so he thought about taking a look around. Yenuel asked him what he meant by look around. The hero replied that he could get an image of what the golems were seeing. He just wanted to know what kind of country it was and what kind of people lived there. He also planned to look into the store, so he wanted to look at it first. Then the guests were brought drinks in mugs. Yanuel enthusiastically took the glass and said that it was the first time he had seen such beautiful glassware. Daiki was surprised. The boy says he wants to trade these things to the imperial country of Fleda for clothes and food. Yanuel says he can do that, and then asks Daiki to show him more. Yanuel looked around the area and thought that the plates, and everything in this place in general, were made with very beautiful and detailed work. Then Yuri distracted him and put a spoon in his mouth, telling him to try this delicious thing. Yanuel said that it was very tasty and soft, that it just melted in his mouth. Ila said that Mr. Daiki is the one who did it. Yuri replied that Mr. Daiki is so talented in magic and making sweets. Mare replied that Mr. Daiki can do anything. Daiki said that they didn't need to praise him so much. At this time, Yuri held out a spoon to Ditsun and asked him to try it. She puts a spoon with sweets in his mouth. The young man was surprised that it was incredibly tasty. Yenuel asks Yuri why he is waking him up. Now he is awake, and there will be a lot of noise. Yenuel asks if they are really inside the flying castle now. He then turns his attention to Daiki sitting behind him and asks if he is the owner of this place. After he hears a positive response, Ditsun falls to his knees and begs Daiki to make him his disciple. Yenuel started kicking Ditsun and calling him a scoundrel. He asked if Ditsun really decided to betray the imperial country. The magician replied that he wanted to learn all these technologies since he was a magician. He was deeply touched by these golems. He asks and begs Daiki to make him his disciple. Daiki replies that he cannot do that. Yuri replies that Mr. Daiki most likely already has a student. She says that she has discovered magical power and a very strong magical power. She then points to Mare and says that most likely that girl is a mage. Mare says that she is not Daiki's student or anything like that. Daiki also says that Mare is not his student. The girl replies that she doesn't even know how to use magic, so it must be a misunderstanding. Yuri asks if this is really the case because she senses someone else's magical power, and someone who has such strong magical power as Mir can surely become a great magician. The girl says that if Mir is not yet experienced, she can teach her. The girl thinks about how she can become a magician, and then imagines a picture where she fights a monster and protects all the beastmen and her family members. Ditsun interrupts their thoughts and asks what about him then? The man begs Daiki to make him his disciple. The boy replies that he seemed to say that he could not do that. Ditsun was sad. He couldn't believe it, because he wanted to know about technology and golems. Daiki said that he cannot teach Ditsun, but the man can observe everything. He promises to show him around the castle. From that moment on, everything became a real dream for the young man, and he found his fateful meeting. The young man showed his guests around the castle. He showed them the most beautiful rooms, and then showed Daitsun a room where there were many golems. The young man began to foam at the mouth. He was shown how water oozed from the hands of small golems to tend the farm and garden. Ditsun lost consciousness again at this sight. Then Ayla showed them the room where they could settle down. In addition, there was a bathroom here. She shows the toilet and says that if Ditsun presses the button, the water will start flowing and he will be able to wash himself right away. Ditsun took off his pants and sat down on the toilet. With a serious face, he told Ayla to press the button. Suddenly, water flowed and the man was simply amazed by this. It was as if he found himself in the middle of a flowering field, where the toilet was the center of everything. The next morning, Yanwal woke up and thought that the bed was very comfortable, and that it was the first time he had slept on such a hard bed. He wondered if he would ever be able to buy one. The young man gets up and goes to the bathroom, but when he opens the door, he finds Ditsun sleeping there, lying and hugging the toilet. He calls him very disgusting. After some time, Ditsun shouted that he would never leave here, and that he would live here with the toilet. Daiki showed the screen and said that everyone downstairs was in confusion, because, after all, the guests were important people. Ditsun was surprised that everyone was worried. Ditsun said that Yanwal and Yuri could just come back and say that he died. He hugs the toilet and says that he will spend the rest of his life here. Yanao asks if Ditsun has any awareness that he is the magician of this country. Ditsun begs Yanao to be silent. Yuri interrupted them and said to Brother Yanwal that he should do the job of the head of the Eastern Castle, and Mr. Ditsun is a magician of the imperial country. She thinks it will be better for both of them to return now, but she will stay here. She hugs Mira and says that she promised to teach her magic. Ditsun asks what the girl is talking about. After all, if so, then he can very well teach her magic himself. Mira cuddles up to Yuri and says that she prefers Yuri as her teacher. Daiki interrupts them and says that they can just visit them again sometime, since he still wants to fly here again for shopping. Yanwal answered positively. Daiki smiles and says that he is glad that they were able to establish good relations with the imperial country of Flida. Yanwal reciprocates. After a while, Ditsun screamed and begged the golem to let him go. He didn't want to fly away from this castle. Janual said that Ditsun was very nasty. Ditsun cried, but swore that he would definitely visit this castle again. He only asks the flying castle to wait. At this time, a stranger walks through the streets of the city. He turns out to be an elf named Ifa. He collects information about the connection between the imperial country of Flade and the flying castle. Mira stood in an unusually beautiful dress. She stretched her arms forward and concentrated on something. Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes and a magical aura of power appeared next to her. Yuri said that it was very good. The girl also had complete control over the force she used, which was great. Such results could only be achieved through long periods of hard training. The idea that Mare can do this very quickly means that she has an excellent sense of magical power. The girl says that Mare can become an incredible magician. Tolaine hugs her daughter and says that she is very proud of her. Mare is embarrassed by this. Snee also said that Mira was simply incredible, and Lance asked the girl to do it again. Mira giggled awkwardly. Yuri thought that it had been several days since she came to this flying castle. It was a very amazing experience one after another. To meet a child with such talent, and to encounter the unknown magic inside this castle, as well as the very kind residents. At this time, Daiki said that, how about taking a short break? He said that he had brought pudding for everyone to have a snack. Yuri was surprised that it looked very tasty. Lant was ready to eat it all, and Schnee was ready for a bigger portion, because he was bigger. Tolaine asked Schnee to have at least some restraint. At this time, Yuri looked at the dessert and then took a spoon and put a piece of it in her mouth. Ila said that the pudding was very tasty. Yuri said that she was ready to eat it all day long. Ila replied that the treats that Daiki had prepared were truly delicious. Ila replied that it was absolutely correct. He was talking about making soft sweets next time. Yuri was surprised that it was not only melted sweets, but also soft sweets. Yuri said that she was looking forward to this moment. Then Ayla called Mare and asked how about joining them. Mare has been practicing and said she will eat her portion later. She still wants to continue practicing now. Mare was fully concentrated and thought that if she continued to practice and learn to use magic well, the girl made a decision to be useful to everyone. Are safe because they are in a flying castle, but they don't know what will happen in the future. Even so, she thought that their peaceful life would not change when she returned to the village. However, she will never let her mother and others experience the same thing again. She will become stronger and protect everyone. Ila thought Mira looked really cool. Daiki hoped she wouldn't put too much pressure on herself. He called A1 and asked if he could keep an eye on her. He was a little worried about her. Ayla thought that it was incredible. Not only could Mira do everyday things, but she could also use magic. Compared to her, she was giving Daiki a hard time making pudding just a minute ago. She thinks she's a burden. Mare is glowing with enthusiasm. Yuri is immersed in sweets, and Ila looks a little gloomy. Daiki thought that the atmosphere had become somewhat incomprehensible. After a few days, Mayra continued to practice and thinks that she should improve her control of the force. Tulane turned to May and asked her if she thought it would be a good idea to take a break because the sun was about to set. Mare said she could still continue. Yuri said that Mrs. Mare, what Tulane said is true. She suggests giving her a break. At this point, Mare can't stand it anymore. Yuri notices this and says that things are going badly. Tulane sees her daughter and tries to ask her what happened. Yuri asks Tulane to calm down. Mare's magic is out of control. This happens quite often with children who start learning magic. Yuri herself had often lost control over magic before. The girl ordered Tulane to stand there and she would take care of the problem herself. Tulane couldn't believe her eyes and ears, and then said that this couldn't be happening. Yuri said whether she really imagined it, or whether it got a little chilly in here. It turns out that Mar has a talent for ice magic. This is a great discovery. Suddenly, ice spikes started coming from Mare. Yuri used her magic to defend herself. Isla was walking around the castle, and ice spikes also appeared in the windows. The girl did not understand what was happening, and then she saw Mare in this block of ice. Ayla thought about how Mare's magical power was going wild. She had seen a similar incident in Aluta. The girl had shouted to Mrs. Yuri that it was dangerous here and that she should leave. Yuri smiled and said that it was okay. She would suppress this surge of magical power right now. The girl used her magic power to protect herself. At this time, Daiki was sitting in the observation and control room when suddenly warnings about danger appeared everywhere. Yuri uses her magic and surrounds Mir. The girl said that she will suppress Mir's magical power so that she will not harm herself or others. Suddenly, the ice spikes around Mare dissolved, and Yuri didn't understand what happened. Yuri thought that Mare could break through the wind barrier. Mare seemed to have a magical power that far exceeded her expectations. However, a golem suddenly appears and attacks Mare. The girl loses consciousness, and he catches her in his arms. Ila ordered A1 to fly to her. We need to take Mara to the medical room. Yuri wondered which medical room Ila was talking about. Tulane touched her daughter and said that her skin was very hot. Yuri said that she had used all her magic power. Tulane should not worry, because in time she would recover. Yuri said that Mare might fall into a lethargy for a while. Ayla said that Mare will be fine as long as she makes the right decisions. She asks everyone to put her in the magic box together, which will surely heal her. Yuri asked what this beautiful capsule was. Ila replied that she thought Daiki had done it like this before. Yuri asked if the girl really knew how to use it. Ila said she was just remembering how to do it. Daiki reconfigured the capsule so that even people without magical powers could use it. Then A1 showed Ila which keys to press. Ila thanked the robot for his help. Daiki bursts into the room and asks what happened and if everything is okay. Ayla asks the young man to check if she set up the capsule correctly or not. Daiki said that everything is working fine and Ayla did everything correctly. The girls breathed a sigh of relief. Daiki asked what happened, and then he saw Mare in the capsule. he saw that Mrs. Mare's magical power began to recover. Yuri asked if the box really belonged to Mr. Daiki. The boy replied that he thought so, since, after all, it was one of the castle's special features. Yuri thought that Mare was recovering quickly and she had never seen anything like this before. The flying castle never ceases to amaze her. Tolene leaned against the capsule and began to cry. The woman said she was so glad Mare was okay. A few days later, Mare woke up. Tolene, Schnee, and Lant were sitting next to her bed. Tolene immediately saw that her daughter had woken up. Lant said that Mare was unconscious after going berserk and using up all her magic power. Schnee said that the girl even created an iceberg. The girl was surprised by this. Tolene asked her daughter why she was putting so much pressure on herself. No matter how much she wanted to become a mage, her body wouldn't hold up if she didn't rest. Mare apologized sadly. The girl said that she just thought that she could become stronger if she became a mage. Schnee asked why she wanted to become stronger. Lant asked if the girl really wanted to fight a dragon or something. The girl replied that she wanted to protect everyone. When the traders of forbidden goods came, if she had been stronger, she could have protected everyone. No one should have been branded with the seal of forbidden goods. Mare began to cry and said that now that she knew she had magical powers, she wanted to become stronger. Tolene hugs her daughter. The woman thanks her daughter and says that her mother is very grateful that the girl takes such good care of them. However, she asks her daughter to take care of her body first. She cannot watch the girl suffer. Tolene looks at Mare with love and says that she will support her in her magical training. But she should not push herself too hard. The girl suggests doing it step by step. They will have peaceful days as long as they stay in this flying castle. She asks if the girl knows about it. Mare tearfully agrees. Tolene says she has to make a promise to her mother, not to overdo it with the magical training, and to do it slowly at her own pace. Schnee then joined them, with Schnee saying that they are rooting for Mare as well. The girl smiles and says that she will do everything in her power. She thanks her. The girl says that she is very sorry that she made them worry. Daiki thinks he is very happy for them. He turns to Ayla and says he thinks Mare has woken up. Ayla says she is very happy. Daiki thanks Ayla for taking Mare to the healing room so quickly. She recovered quickly thanks to that. Ayla says that she remembered Daiki using it once before. Ayla says that it is also thanks to A1, and she can use the magic box correctly, so she really didn't do anything. Daiki says that Ayla is too hard on herself. She should praise herself more. The girl says that she can't do it. Daiki says that in that case he will do it for her. The girl is embarrassed. She says that instead of praising her, he should praise Yuri, because that girl stopped Mare. Daiki says that she's probably right, since they should thank Yuri too. He comes up with an idea to take advantage of this and thank her. After a while, Yuri sees a wonderful dessert. She screams with delight. Yuri says that the dessert is so soft. Soft. Daiki replies that he is glad that the girl liked it. In the end, Mare was crying with happiness. Yuri was enjoying the dessert, and Ayla was determined to do her best. Daiki thought that everything was going very smoothly so far. This time, he didn't even do anything in this incident. He was the one who should be more strict with himself. At this time, Yuri was simply amazed by how beautiful this fine castle was. At this time, Ditsun was sitting at the bar, drinking alcoholic drinks and crying. He was trying to recreate what he had seen on the flying castle. But no matter what he did, he couldn't even get close to that toilet on the flying castle. He falls face down on the table and starts crying and screaming. As expected, he has to do some research on the real things inside the flying castle. It's the only way to make a breakthrough in this case. But he starts crying and remembering Yuri, and then asks why he is on Earth now because it is very unfair. Ditsun told the employee that he would have another bottle of liquor. The man asked if he drank too much. Also, could they please be quieter? Then a stranger comes into the bar and calls Ditsun. It was the elf Ife. The man asked if Ditsun had really just said something about a flying castle. He asked him to tell him everything he knew about this castle. Then General Violet appears nearby, and she tells Ditsun that if he doesn't talk, he will face something terrible. Violet said that she is sure that Ditsun is a mage. She also says that they were looking for her. Ditsun looked at the man and woman and thought he knew them. The man was the court mage of the Brow Empire, an elf named Afa. and next to him was an imperial witch named Violet. They are both famous mages in the mage community due to their great contributions to the Empire. But what did they forget and fled? Ifa says that they know that Ditsun was in the flying castle. He orders him to tell everything he knows. Ditsun asks how they knew. Violet asked if the man really didn't realize that he was talking about a flying castle everywhere he went. Not to mention that he had just muttered about it. Ditsun realized that he was a complete fool. He thought that this was bad, but there was only one reason why the Brow Empire was looking for information about the flying castle. It's all about invasion. The Brow Empire uses its military to trample and plunder other countries. The flying castle, his utopia, where the magnificent toilet is located. He will never allow them to invade this castle. Ditsun begins using his magical powers to distract the man and woman, then jumps out the window and tries to escape. Anyway, it's definitely a bad idea. Since he's been grieving for a week, he'll probably spill the beans if they torture him, and after they get the information, they'll probably kill the man. This means that the only way to survive is to escape. Ifa and Violet went after him. The girl said that she would not let the boy escape. Ifa said that Ditsun's choice of magic was not so bad, but the girl replied that it was not enough to escape from them. She uses her magic power and starts attacking Ditsun. The man starts screaming for someone to save him. Violet shows his disgust and asks how a court mage can make such a disgusting voice. The people below began to ask the master magician what had happened. Ditsun announced the intruders and then ordered to shoot at them. Then the men took out their magic bows. One of them asked if it was really because of those guys, and then said that he would shoot them to scare them off. Then, they all started shooting magic arrows at once. Ifa used his magic power to repel the attack. Violet said that humans were very troublesome, and then suggested that they just blow them all up. Then Ifa appeared right in front of her. The girl asked why he was standing in her way. The young man replied that they had not come here to start a war. The magic the girl was using could kill the inhabitants. The girl says that His Majesty is seeking to expand the territory of the Brow Empire sooner or later. They will have to start a war against Fleeta. She then asks if the girl can use magic in such a case. Ifa says it's not up to them to decide. They just need to act according to His Majesty's orders. Ditsun doesn't understand what's going on, but the man and woman seem to be arguing, so this is his chance to escape. After some time, Ditsun appears in Yanwalia. The prince immediately begins to shout that he has failed his research again. The man says that this time he is not to blame, and why the prince is blaming everything on him. The man screams that Yenuao is hurting him with his words. The prince apologizes to him and then asks what happened. Ditsun says that the Empire sent assassins and they came to kill him. Suddenly, Violet and Ifa appear behind the man. Yan Yuao looks at them and says that it seems that way. After a while, they come to a place with a table. Yan Yuao talks about the flying castle. Violet says they came for information about it. Ifa says to be clear, he will say they are not here for this man's life. It was all just a misunderstanding. Ditsun asks how they can lie so brazenly. They both enjoyed catching and torturing him so much. Violet says that the man is of course joking, because they would never do such a thing. The girl asks if maybe he is into that kind of thing or something like that. Ditsun said that he is not into that. Ifa says that they just came here looking for information about the flying castle. They don't want to cause any harm. Yanuel said that they did use flight magic over their city and were chasing the Imperial Mage. There was a loud explosion just now near the wall. Luckily, there were no casualties, but he doesn't think that such magic was needed to gather information. The explosion happened when they were defending themselves from an attack by their people, so he doesn't think they are to blame here. Yanwao replies that he believes the two have come here on unofficial business from the Empire, and yet they still behave so arrogantly and imperiously. He's very sorry to say this, but he's a little on edge right now. His friend just ran in here and was scared for his life because they were chasing him. However, despite the fact that they are mages of the Brow Empire, right now they are ordinary guests, and they have no right to force them to talk about the flying castle. So he refuses, and they have nothing to talk about. Violet smiles and then says that it is. In that case, they will have to capture Ditsun and torture him. Yenuel says that he will not allow that to happen, and he will not allow any fighting to take place here. However, it is true that he does not think they have enough strength to defeat Violet and Yufa, who have strength comparable to a dragon. The girl drinks from the glass and says that it seems he knows his place. Yanuel becomes very angry and says that he will therefore poison them. Violet's face shows a look of horror. Yanuel says their family had an incurable neurotoxin. It attacks the nervous system and leaves its victims unable to move. They can't even think about anything as they face their death. It's a poison that won't cause pain, but will bring death. The girl is very surprised to hear this. Ifa says that he had a premonition that he would do something like this from the very beginning. The girl asks him to tell her if he is in his right mind. Yanu asks to be sure that it is only a joke, but the tea is not poisoned. In the end, they scared Ditsun to death. Violet asks if Yanuel really didn't poison the tea. The man says the tea is well brewed. He would never put anything in it that could spoil it. A man drinks tea and says that you just need to smell this tea. It is the best tea in the world, and he suggests that you just enjoy it. Ifa analyzes the prince and thinks that Januel Fleda, as expected from the brother of Emperor Fleda. Ifa cannot understand what he is thinking. Ditsun thinks that this could possibly cause a war if they are not careful. Januel says that he is a pacifist and does not start a war. Moreover, they are dealing with an empire. Fleda doesn't stand a chance against them. Then a messenger comes into the room and apologizes for interrupting them, but he would like to discuss something. Suddenly, something flashes outside. Violet and Ifa turn around. Yanuel said that it was bad, and then ordered not to let these two go. Violet runs out into the yard. She sees the golem from the flying castle. She thought she could only see his back from afar in Aluda, but he is so small and skinny. The girl remembered how the golem destroyed all her golems, and said that her golems were destroyed because of this golem. She was stopped by Ifa. Suddenly, Ditsun asked why Lord Daiki's golem was here. Ifa wondered which Daiki he was talking about. Yanuel thought that this was a very bad time, although they tried their best to hide the information about the flying castle. Ditsun approached and asked the golem if he really had come to deliver the letter. Ditsun snatches the letter and begins to read it, and then sees that it is addressed to brother Yanuel. The man says that it is from Mrs. Yuri. Yanuel snatches the letter and says that one cannot read other people's letters. Then Ditsun says that the golem is here, and doesn't that mean that he will be able to take someone with him? There was silence between Ditsun and Yanuel. Then they started fighting. Januel said that of course it would be him, and Ditsun said that Januel had the important role of guarding the eastern castle. Yanuel says he will give up all his power, so he should be flattered. Ditsun asked who would need it anyway, and who would do such a troublesome job. Yanuel said the letter was sent to him, so he should go. Violet tried to understand why they were fighting like that. She thought about what the golem was made of. Obviously not iron. Then the golem grabbed the girl and held her close. She was very scared by this. The golem tries to fly. The girl orders him to let go and then tries to activate her magic. Ifa screams for the girl to stop and not attack him. The young man says that if this golem attacks her, she will be dead. After all, she knows its power very well. The golem takes off, and Ifa follows them. Ditsun sees all this and asks to be taken with him. He grabs the golem's leg. Yanuel says that this is not fair and asks to be taken with him. Ditsun smiles slyly. Yanuel starts to get angry and says that it is simply unfair. At this time, Yuri was sitting in the castle and wondering if brother Yanuel had read the letter they had sent. She wanted to tell her brother that the food here would definitely be to his taste. She worries that her words are not enough to tell him about it. Daiki says that he thinks it would be better for him to come here, or maybe send him some food. Yuri thought it was a great idea. Daiki said that, in any case, he was glad that the food was to his taste, and he was very glad that Yuri didn't mind eating rice. Then, he asked about rice. Devuksha replied that the quality of rice was very different from that here, but she ate rice. Daiki became very curious about what kind of dishes they prepared. Suddenly, a warning screen appears right in front of them. The young man looks at the screen and sees that the golem is carrying someone, and someone has grabbed him by the legs, and then someone else is chasing him. Then Daiki, Ayla, and Mare saw that the girl carried by the golem and the man who was flying behind the golem were people from the Empire. They didn't understand why these people were flying here. Yuri looked at them and was surprised. Daiki says that he has seen those two before. The girl is the general who invaded Alat. and next to him is the mage who came to scout the flying castle. Ila asked why the golem was carrying them. Daiki apologizes and says that it is his fault. He made the golem automatically react to nearby humans because he did not input Yanwala's data into the golems, so it mistook them for him. Yuri says she doesn't quite understand, but it means those people from the Empire weren't fled. The girl heard that information about the flying golem had spread beyond the Empire, but she had no idea that the Empire's mages would arrive. Did they really guess that these flying golems were from the flying castle? Or maybe someone leaked the information about the flying castle. But who could do that? The problem is what's happening in the Imperial country now. She sent a letter to Yanwell, but he won't come here. The girl tries to understand what happened to Yanwell and whether he is safe. At this time, Ditson shouted that he would be able to get into the flying castle again. He, Ditson, declares here, even if he has to hand over his old friend, he will choose his favorite flying castle. After some time, Ifa, Violet, and Ditson arrived at the flying castle. They looked around and could not believe that this was a flying castle. Ifa says it's too quiet here. Violet says it's scary. She doesn't even feel any presence. Then the girl sees Ifa heading somewhere. The young man comes to the farm and sees the golems that took care of the farm. Violet tried to understand where the enemy was. Ifa tries to lick the fertilizer thinking it is salt. The girl asked what the boy was doing. Ditson said that it was unfair and he also wanted to lick the ground of the flying castle. And maybe he could understand something from this. Suddenly, Ditson began to spit on the ground, and the girl ordered him to shut up, calling him a monkey. Suddenly, golems appear behind Violet and Yufa. They attack them from behind and knock them to the ground. Daki says that he is very sorry for acting so rashly with them. Daiki says that even if it was his mistake, he still has to be careful with any trespassers. The girl wondered what mistake the boy was talking about. Daiki said that his golem brought them by mistake. If they wish to return immediately, he will send them back quietly and peacefully. Ifa says that this is so and they came here by chance, but also for their own reasons. They have no desire to return back yet. Violet says that instead, why does not the boy show himself? He is the mage who controls these golems. She says that as he could see, they can't move. The girl thinks that she finally sees the face of the magician who controls the golems that destroyed her golems in Aluta. Daiki says that the girl is right, and it is impolite to speak without showing herself. The young man says that he is glad to meet you. He is the owner of this castle named Shiihara Daiki. The girl is surprised by this and asks not to tell her that the one who destroyed her golems is this weak-looking guy. The boy apologized for his stupid appearance. He was just making breakfast. The girl screams and asks where the other magicians are. She asks if they are hiding somewhere. She demands to show them to them. Daiki says that all these golems are under his control. More precisely, he is the only one who can use the system. Ifa says that can't be. A man can only move one golem at a time. Ditson says they are all fools. Daiki is a great magician, so they shouldn't compare him to the plebeians here. The girl then says that there are others hiding in the distance. Daiki turns to the girls and says that he asked them not to worry about him. Ila apologizes to Mr. Daiki. Violet then asks if the red-haired girl is Princess Letitia, meaning that what the Alutan people said about her being kidnapped by a flying castle was true. The girl said that they made her a prohibited item and attacked a lot. She is sure that the girl wants revenge. The girl asks what she thinks, and maybe it will be easier if they kill them right here. Ayla said she wouldn't do anything like that. She doesn't want it. Mare demands that they tell her why they came here. Ditson intervenes and turns to Daiki and says that his student will explain how all this happened. He says that these people hid the information about the flying castle and fled. Violet says that he was the one who spread it. Ifa said, turning to Daiki, that this place had aroused their interest. The flying island and the castle on it, as well as its magic. Daiki tries to say something, but is interrupted by Ifa, who says that the Brow Empire is one of the few magical countries, so it is natural that they are interested in their technology. It is true that due to the interference of the flying castle in their entry into Alut, the Empire was forced to retreat. But His Majesty Konings decided not to judge them for it. So the Empire will not think of it as a problem. Ayla said that it was impossible, and it couldn't be true. It was too profitable for them. Ifa also says that it is his personal reason, but he is a mage, so he wants Daiki to show his power. Ditson thinks that he understands the elf's feelings perfectly. Violet tries to figure out what Ifa is thinking. She even suggested that he's trying to lower their guard. It is true that His Majesty said nothing about them in Aluta, as he is now bedridden, but this means that he simply did not mention it at the moment. First of all, His Majesty had planned to take over the flying castle from the very beginning. Instead of a regular dummy like Alut, he would definitely be more excited about a new toy. And what happened in Aluta is a good reason to start a war. Princess Letizia should have realized that. Yuri says she has something she wants to say. Ditsun shudders at her presence. The girl asks Afa if the mage really means to say that he wishes to know about Lord Daiki's power. As he could see, the one who controls this castle and the many golems on it is Lord Daiki. Of course, considering the golems that hold them. So she doesn't believe that court magicians like them can tell how strong Daiki is. Ditsun says that's exactly it. Daiki is awesome, and these two here are just brainless. Violet gets angry. Ifa says that strength is something that you test, so they might be afraid of it. That's why he would like to ask Daiki for a duel. Everyone is surprised. Daiki says that it is impossible. Violet asks what Afa is doing. The boy speaks up, asking if the girl tested how strong the golem from the flying castle is during the battle in Aluta. However, he has not yet seen how strong Daiki is. The girl asks him not to joke. She says that this is not at all like Afa. He does not understand what he is thinking. Ditsun says that, in fact, as a magician, he would also like to fight Daiki. Daiki thought about how he didn't fight with other children when he was a child. Ifa says that when Daiki lets go of him, he can use the golem that holds him to hold Violet. He thinks it's smart to hold that woman down. The girl is very angry. A 1 stands between Yufa and Daiki and then takes a fighting stance. Yufa says if this golem will really be the one to fight him. Daiki asks if he will be convinced of this after the fight. Yufa says that he will do so after that. Ifa then says that he would like to discuss something with him. Daiki says that he always thought of using the Flying Castle's power just to protect someone and have fun. If Ifa goes that far, Yuri thinks that Lord Daiki's golem is going to fight. This has become extremely interesting, namely how strong this golem is. She is sure that Dizzen is happy about this. At this time, Dizzen completely disconnected from the world while standing. After some time, Ifa and the golem began to prepare for the duel. Daiki says that they are ready to begin. In an instant, Ifa and A1 soar into the sky. Ifa uses magic and draws an arrow on a magic bow. A1 starts running away from this arrow. Daiki says that it is simply incredible. This arrow, created by magic, moves like a snake chasing its target. Violet thinks that as expected of Yufa. He instantly used high-level magic. Yufa thinks that he won't let go of A1. Then he shoots many more arrows. Daiki was afraid for A1 for a moment, but it was in vain. The golem suddenly began to dodge one arrow after another. Ifa was surprised by this. Suddenly, A1 was right in front of the elf. He strikes and hits Ifa right in the face. The young man thought that it was simply unimaginable that the golem could move so fast. This was simply his defeat. The young man remembers a moment from his past. Someone turned to Ife and said that she heard that the young man did a great job hunting yesterday. He was offered a bone to the spirit of the tree. The girl believes that he will like it. Daiki then asks if Ifa is okay, as he is about to be thrown straight into the pool. Suddenly, Ifa wakes up. He thinks that this place is similar to that village. He grabs his head and starts screaming in pain. Violet asks if the boy is crazy. Yufa says it is unthinkable that Daiki is so strong. He felt it with his whole body. Ifa says that from now on he will speak not as the court magician of the Brow Empire, but as the elf Ifa. He asks the young man to listen to him. Ifa takes off his robe. On his shoulder is a mark of prohibited goods, and his entire back is covered in scars. Daiki and Ayla are surprised by this. Ayla says that he is an imperial servant. Not only he, but all the elves from his village have become weak-willed servants. All his family members are being held captive. Daiki says that it is cruel. Ifa says that the elven spirit tree, and have they ever heard of it? Ditsun says he has heard of it. It is a mythical tree that is said to be the source of life, and it is the reason for the long life of the elves. Ifa replies that everything is correct. Since ancient times, they, the elves, have received magical power and blessings from the Tree of Spirits, and therefore the Empire has set its sights on it. Thanks to the body they receive from the spirit tree, elves are more resilient than humans. But the Empire took advantage of this by forcing elves who do not speak of the location of the spirit tree to work without rest. Countless people are forced to work as magicians, receiving neither food nor the opportunity to rest, and among them there are already those who have died from this. Ifa falls to his knees and bows to Daiki. He says that he bows to Daiki's will so that he can save his family. Violet asks if Ifa really intended to betray the Brow Empire, if this is really what he had planned from the beginning. The girl orders him to admit his shame, all because he is an elf from some village, was able to touch the best technologies, and was able to live in the Empire thanks to his majesty. Ifa confidently says that he never wished for this. They are the ones who live near the spirit tree, and they cannot have descendants if they are far from the spirit tree. Asks Ifa why the Empire is targeting the spirit tree. Ifa says that the Emperor of Brow, Konings, is a human. Because he is getting older, the time he spends in bed is increasing. Other people without hesitation, but at the same time, he is afraid of losing his own life. For this reason, he wants to gain immortality. Ditsun asks about immortality and says that it is possible. Ifa says that it is impossible. He has never heard of anything like that. However, the truth is that the elves do not fully understand how the spirit tree works. They do not know what might happen if the spirit tree accepts a human, but they do not want to let the Empire touch the spirit tree, no matter how they tortured them. As long as they remembered their duty to protect the spirit tree, their souls would never die. That was why they were looking for an opportunity to fight back against the Empire. Ifa says that he is sorry that he tested Daiki's power. However, since Violet is here, he cannot make a mistake, because if he does, his family will most likely be killed. That is why he had to see its power with his own eyes. He falls to his knees once more and bows, then asks to lend him Daiki's power to save his family. Daiki, Ayla, and Mare are surprised. Daiki asks the elf to raise his head. Daiki says that he accepts his request. He will do everything possible to help him. Ayla says that they are ready to save the elves. Mare offers to help them. Ifa is surprised by this. Daiki says that they need information if they are going to help the elf. Daiki thinks that the Brow Empire is dangerous. He knew that sooner or later they would encounter it, but he never thought that they would encounter it like this. He then turns his attention to Violet and wonders what lies behind her dangerous smile. After some time, A1, Tulane, and Mare arrived in the city. Mare was very surprised that she always lived in the forest, so for the first time, she sees so many buildings made of brick, although the flying castle is much more beautiful than this. Tulane asked Mare to calm down. The Brow Empire made Daiki's eyes spin because they would soon be heading to Putin's to save the elves. A few days earlier, Ifa had already been treated, and he was walking around the castle grounds, admiring the nature. Suddenly, Ila interrupts him and asks if the man would like some tea. Ila asks what Princess Aluda is doing. The girl carries a box of things and says that she was just doing some field work. Ifa asked why she was taking care of the fields, and if she wasn't Daiki's wife. Then why was she doing such work? The girl became embarrassed and said that Ifa was mistaken, and that the girl was not in such a relationship with Mr. Daiki. She began to awkwardly move her fingers, and then Ifa asked what kind of relationship they were in then. Ila said that everyone who lives here is her family. That's exactly what Mr. Daiki said. Ifa thought about family. Tulane said that it was all true, and they were all family. It was true that Mare, Schnee, Lant, and the woman were blood relatives. But she also considered Ayla one of her daughters. Lant says yes, he feels like they have a new relative. Mare says it's not fair, and she wants to hug her mom too. Ayla says Mare is really a spoiled brat. Tulane said that they can live side by side, helping each other here. Ila said that even Lord Daiki doesn't just move the castle. He also does the field work, cooking, and other household chores. They cook together, tend to the fields together, and watch anime together. It's a lot of fun. Ifa didn't understand what anime they were talking about. The girls say it's true that they don't really understand the language used, but Daiki explains everything to them. The girls suggest that Ifa watch anime together when they have time. Mare says she liked the one about the magical girl. Lant liked the story about riding a golem. Shni says it's not a golem. Ifa smiles and realizes that this place is truly beautiful. Isla tells Ifa to be sure. Lord Daiki will definitely save the elves who are being held captive. Ifa agrees. Until now, he hadn't relied on anyone. Elven problems were meant to be solved by elves. That's what they were taught in their village, so it hadn't occurred to him to ask for help, but that was the choice he had made. At this time, Ditsun comes to the control room and realizes that this is the room for controlling the castle. Daiki says, "That's right. He sent several drones to scout the Brow Empire last night, but he still hasn't gotten enough information about the elves." According to what Ifa said, the elves are kept in the capital of the Brow Empire, but their location is unclear, as they are kept in different places. Even Ifa knows little. However, he said that there are about 20 elves in total. Yuri was also in the room, and said that it was terribly small. When the elf village was attacked, most of the elves who did not have magical powers were killed. Even those held hostage were mistreated to the point of dying. Ditsun says that after all, the lives of hostages are taken lightly, especially in the Empire. Daiki says that they need to save them quickly. Yuri is shocked by this. Then Ditsun distracts them because he asked Daiki what was on the screen. The boy replied that it was a map of the imperial capital. Ditsun asked if it was possible that Daiki had created it so quickly. Daiki replied that he had made a map using photographs taken from the sky by drones. Using these, he had marked the buildings that elves might be in. He had also noted the number of patrols and shifts, as well as the nearest outposts, sentries, and their numbers. Ditsun said that it was simply amazing. Ditsun was touched again by the fact that Lord Daiki truly deserved to be called a great magician. To think that he could do something like that, Daiki said that Ditsun was exaggerating. It was his first time doing spy work like this, so he was really nervous. He thought he was going to die. Even Yuri noticed that Mr. Daiki was very nervous. Then the girl also pointed at the screen and asked if Mr. Daiki hadn't said that these buildings were very suspicious. Yuri said that the elves were hostages, which meant that they were the property of the Empire. So there must be elf kidnappers hunting them. Therefore, they will be placed under heavy guard. Besides, elves are well known for their high magical abilities. This means that even if they were branded with the seal of a forbidden commodity, as long as they are under the care of the master, this seal will weaken. It will be bad if they break out and attack the soldiers. The soldiers must be well equipped. Daiki thanks him and says that it should help. Then Afa comes into the room and says, apologetically, that he would like to join the search as well. Daiki turns to Ifa and says that he was hit by A1 a while ago, so he needs to rest a little more. Ifa says that Daiki's golem has been holding back its power, so it's fine now. Ifa says that instead, he asks to be allowed to express his gratitude for letting him explore the castle. Initially, when Emperor Koning ordered him to scout this flying castle, he thought that only this castle could go against the Brow Empire. And after he took a closer look at the castle, he was convinced of this. Ditsun started shouting that it was self-evident. Ifa looked down on the technology of this castle. Even the toilet could release warm water at the right temperature. Ifa asked about warm water. Ditsun offered him a try. Ifa says that Daisinus' behavior changed after they arrived at this castle. Didn't he cry when they were in Fleda? Daisinus asks not to say this. Ifa says that, in addition to those who work as mages in the imperial capital, he knows of one elf who is being held in a trouble spot. Daiki asks about the trouble spot. The problematic place is the inner palace of the royal castle. There is one elf kept there who works as a servant. Daiki asks about the inner palace, and asks if the security there will not be very tight. After they rescue the rest of the elves, he plans to infiltrate the royal palace. He would like to borrow Daiki's golem for the time being, if possible. Daiki suggests that they make sure to milk it for success. Then Ayla bursts into the room and says to Mr. Daiki that she made it as Daiki told her. The girl brewed fruit tea and it looked very tasty. Ditsun smells a wonderful aroma. Ifa says that they have similar fruits in the elf village, and they usually eat them this way. Yuri says that the smell of fruits and tea leaves merged, and this smell is simply delicious. She would really like for Brother Yanwal to try it too. Ifa also said that he wanted his family to try the tea. Ayla and Daiki were sad and excited. At this time, Violet turned the entire room she was in upside down. One of the golems is watching her. The girl can't even make a crack in the room using her magic. The lock turned out to be very strong. She finds this place very boring because it is so peaceful and so quiet. This place is just awful. However, if this continues, the Empire will definitely attack this flying castle. And they don't even know what that means. At this time, Daiki told them all to be careful. If anything happened, he would order the golems to rescue them. He would also continue to monitor the surrounding area with drones. If there is anything strange, they should contact Daiki immediately. He then thinks that, frankly, he himself would like to go there. But the only person who can control the golems and drones is himself. Ayla regrets that she can't help either. At this time, Ifa is in the city and says that Ayla has long been engaged to the Prince of the Empire, so her face is known. As for the golems, the soldiers who participated in the war may also know them. To reduce the chance of being discovered, this is the best way. Daiki tells them to all check their maps and go to the marked places to check them. Ditsun takes out a jar of something loose. He takes some in his hands and then waves it, casting a spell of sleeping powder. Then all the guards instantly fell asleep, and Ditsun and the golem could safely pass by them. Then Ditsun enters the basement. The elves asked who was there. Ditsun apologized and then said that he came here to save everyone at Afa's request. The elves were surprised. First, according to the plan, they will send golems to carry the elves to the forest outside the imperial capital, and when they are sure that it is clear, they will wait for the golems to carry the elves out. Ditsun thought that they had saved 2 people without any problems, so he hoped that everything would go smoothly from now on. Then he sees people warming themselves by a fire and thinks that they are what are called second-class citizens, residents of countries that the Empire has invaded. They are treated like slaves. They were probably brought here as labor. If they were caught by the Empire, they would also become like them, although they would probably be treated worse. He cooperates, because it was Lord Daiki's request. However, the problem is Yuri. Yuri is the princess of the country of Flayed. If they find out that someone important like her had a hand in this operation, he thinks the Empire will not let it go unnoticed. It won't matter until they find them. If Yuri were to attend a social event, they would probably send her an engagement proposal, and if that happened, it would be the end of her life. Yuri had never attended any event, so her face should not be recognizable. However, if she's captured, it will be bad. Ditsun is really worried. Even though he knows very well how strong Yuri is, he is very worried. At this time, Tulane asks how Mare is, as this is the first time she has seen so much knowledge. The girl agrees, but says that if compared to the flying castle, it is much more majestic than this place. Tulane says that after all, the flying castle is a special place, but she doesn't think it's a good idea to compare them. She offers to go help the elves get back to their forest. Mare agrees with her mother. Everything will be fine, because Lord Daiki's golems are still here, and Mir's mother is here with her. Mare will do everything she can to learn magic from Yuri. Everything will be fine. She is sure of it. Mare says that this is the same building. Tulane asks the golem, turning to Daiki, if there is anything unusual nearby. Daiki says that there are several guards patrolling nearby, so they should enter before the enemies get there. Tulane approaches Mare and asks her if she remembers. The girl must use her magic to spray the sleeping powder. The girl agrees and asks to let her do it. The girl says that after all, she trained with Ditsun. At that time, the knights were taking out the hostages. One said that these have very beautiful eyes, so he is ready to bet that they will give a lot of shekels for them. Another calls the man stupid, and says that if he does this, his superiors will kill him. They are extremely useful tools, so he must not break them. At this time, Tulane and the others were watching them. Tulane asks if they are going to work even though it is midnight. Daiki says that shouldn't be the case. They must have changed their schedule. Mare asks if they are really going to leave. They thought about just watching them. Suddenly, a man nudged one of the captives and shouted at them to hurry up. Tulane and Mare were scared. The man asked if the boy hadn't seen the elders treat them like sacks of sand. Elves were pretty tough anyway, so he was lucky to be doing something like that. The other man said it was a great idea. At this time, the elf girl called her brother. She shouted for him to forget about her, but her brother was immediately hit by the man. He said to look at the one who is here, protecting his little sister. What a good brother. At one point, a shard of ice hits one of the men in the head. At that moment, Mare shouted for the man to stop and let go of the children. Tulane became scared and screamed her daughter's name. The men shouted about who would attack them, and then asked Mare if she had really come to steal illegal goods. Mare was surprised and thought that if they were going to take the elves, then why is it kidnapping? If it is kidnapping, then what are they stealing? But the fact that the Empire enslaves the elves, then it is wrong from the very beginning. Mare put her hands on her hips and asked what she really didn't understand, but they weren't kidnappers. The men couldn't figure out what was wrong with this girl. The other man says that now that he looks closer, he recognizes the girl as a beastman. He hates beastmen. He doesn't understand what this has done to the beastmen. They must continue to live their lives in the dirt. Mare ordered him to shut up, and then she held out her hands and used her magic powers. She ordered them to shut up because she decides where she is and is not. The girl uses her ice spikes, but the man deftly cuts them with his sword. Mare was surprised by this. The man began to laugh and said that despite their high spirit, the girl's attacks are simply terrible. He asks if she understands what the Empire's army is. Creatures like her are like little bugs to them. Tulane orders Mare to stand behind her. The man asked if Mare had brought her mother with her. They laughed at the idea of the daughter and mother being thieves. They couldn't understand what a wonderful company they had met. Tulane grows angry and orders the men to be quiet, asking if they don't realize how cruel they are to the elves. Do they really have no understanding of what terrible things they are doing? Because they are also people, just like the elves themselves. The elves watched in shock as they saw what was happening. The man got angry and asked what the woman had just said. It was all completely wrong, because those elves were just forbidden goods. These elves are pathetic creatures who have lost their value as humans. They are completely different from them, the superior race inhabiting the Empire. In this world, those who interfere with the prosperity and control of humans are the elves and beastmen. They are just a nuisance. They are no different from dragons or demons. They are the same beasts. So before they died in the forest, the Empire brought them here so they could be of some use. The man says they should thank them for that. Tulane asked what kind of education they were receiving. The girl said that they were just pathetic people. A robot golem appeared next to the woman. The golem starts attacking the armored men. One of them tries to block the golem's attack with a sword, but his weapon is crooked. The man doesn't understand what's wrong with this golem. The golem then uses a magical attack and pushes the man away. Mare is happy and says that this is just incredible. Lord Daiki's golem is just incredible. The men are surprised that these women have such a powerful golem. Another man asked to get that same magical tool. It seems that one of the elves understood what the men were talking about. The man takes out an unusual ball. The elf immediately shouts to the girls to get out of here. The man, meanwhile, activates the magic item and the ball begins to grow. The man orders the thieves to disappear. Mare and Tulane pressed themselves against each other, and the golem stood up to protect them and absorbed the entire blow of the magical object. The girls were simply amazed at what was happening now. The golem was burning, and then suddenly fell to his knees and lowered his hands. The girls were surprised by this. At this time, many errors appeared on the observation screen. Ila asked Daiki to do something and quickly. The young man hissed and said that he would try to make repairs. He hoped to get everything done in time. Mare thought that it simply couldn't be, because one of Lord Daiki's golems couldn't lose. He simply couldn't do it. Tulane took the blade from her sleeve and ordered Mare to run away. She said that she would buy her some time, so she should take the elves with her and fly away. The girl did not understand what her mother was saying. Tulane ordered Mare to use Lord Daiki's drone to convey this to them. Upon hearing this explosion, reinforcements from the neighboring garrison would arrive here, so she must hurry before they arrived. The girl started to cry. The woman screamed and ordered her to pull herself together and run faster. At this point, the man shouted that he would send the woman to hell along with her family. He raised his sword to attack her. Tulane dodges the blow and jumps to the side. She said that the man should dare to touch a hair of her daughter. She will be the one who will send him to hell. At this time, Mare took the elves and showed them which way to go. At this time, Tulane's attack did not work. Mare turned around and her face described the horror of the situation. The girl thinks that she can't leave her mother here. She doesn't want it. She can't leave her. At that moment, they swung their sword and hit Tulane's shoulder. The girl screamed in pain. Mare began to cry because she could not bear to watch her mother being killed. The girl releases her magic and thinks that she will be the one to protect her mother. Suddenly, the men started to freeze, and they couldn't move. Tulane was shocked by what was happening. Suddenly, Mare grabbed her hand and tried to pull her away. The man began to reach out and said that he could let them escape. Suddenly, he grabs Tulane by the hair, and then swings his sword and tries to hit her. Mare screamed at the sight of this horror. Suddenly, the Daiki golem that was recently defeated appeared behind the man. It stretches its hand towards the man's head. Then suddenly, he throws him to the ground, and he loses consciousness. The second man was horrified by what he saw. He could not believe that the golem had come to his senses. He runs away from here without a trace. Mare starts to cry because it's just relief and the golem has come back to life. Suddenly, Tulane yells at Mare and the elves to get out of here. Mare grabs her mother's hand and thinks that the touch is very warm. They run away with the elves. Daiki watches all this and sighs with relief that he managed to heal the golem in time. Ila did not even understand what happened. With the help of that magical item, which they called a magic tool, they caused the golem to overheat. Therefore, there was an error in the protection commands. It returned to its original state after rebooting. Ila asked what this reboot meant. Daiki thought about the tool of the Empire and thought it was annoying. He said it was a great relief that everything was completely safe. He even thought his heart would just stop. Ayla said that the problem was the soldier who escaped. He would definitely report it to his superiors, so the defense would increase, so they should inform the others as soon as possible. They need to hurry this evening. They have to save all the elves. At this time, Yuri was quietly dining in the establishment. She was enjoying the delicious meat. Then the girl offers other guests to help themselves. The man asked if this was okay. The girl said that they were probably hungry, so they should have something to eat. The girl agreed that they were hungry, but it was still strange. Yuri's companions were elves, 2 men and a girl. The girl said that everything was fine and they could relax, because this flying castle will protect them all. The golem takes the 2 elves who saved Myra and Tulane, and then takes them to the flying castle. Then, a drone flies up to the girls, and Daiki apologizes to Mare and says that he was very scared. He can't believe that the golem broke. He considers it his mistake. Tulane says that nothing terrible happened, and everything turned out well, and the main thing is that they are alive. Tulane says that this chaos will increase security. Ayla looks at the surveillance screen and says that a reinforcement team is already on the way. Mare apologizes and says it's because she didn't use sleeping pills. Daiki says she just panicked and shouldn't blame herself. Ila is very happy and says that the girl used magic very well. It's all because she trained hard, and it's very cool. Tulane also approaches her daughter and says that it was amazing, and then she thanks the girl. The girl began to smile and become embarrassed. She says that when the golem returns, they will immediately go save the other elves. Tulane agrees. Then they ask Daiki how things are going. Daiki says that the rescue went pretty smoothly, and it's all thanks to her magic. Daiki says that Iri has especially distinguished herself. She has already saved about 10 people. Tulane says that Yuri may not seem serious, but if she takes on a task, she will do it to the end. Mare also says that Yuri is simply great. At this time, Yuri eats delicious food. The freed elf thanked her and said that he could not believe that he could escape from the Empire. Yuri told him to be on guard. This golem will take him to the transit point, and there he can eat. The man said that the girl was simply a goddess, and he thanked her for everything. Yuri said that it was nice to hear, and then wished the young man to take care of himself. The girl still had one more area to deal with. She didn't expect the Imperial Guards to be so weak. And proud of themselves, they were so stupid. Suddenly, the girl notices people nearby. They were 2 girls who were dressed interestingly. Yuri realized that this was the uniform that female Imperial soldiers wore. Yuri smirks and says she has an idea. After some time, beautiful night girls approached the 2 guards and asked if they were tired. The girls turned out to be Ila and Schnee in disguise. The men asked what squad the girls were from and if they were new recruits. Another man thought he had seen the red-haired one somewhere before. Ila replied that she was leading a squad of fledglings. Violet appeared before the guards and said that she had come here today to show the 2 the magical arts of the elves. The men were surprised that she wanted to show it in the middle of the night. The girl replied that, unfortunately, she was always busy and did not have such a luxury as choosing the time. Snee said that the girls had a gift for them. They offered them some strong drinks. Snee asked the men to enjoy the drink. Ila was simply amazed by what she saw. She couldn't believe that it was Schnee and herself. Daiki thought that it might be an illusion of Yuri. He felt a bit awkward. Ditsun says that Yuri always played tricks on him with her illusions. Daiki heard it from Ditsun that this is one of Yuri's strongest abilities in the magical arts. Ila begged Daiki not to look at all this. Daiki apologized and said that he had already seen everything that was possible. Ila starts crying and says that she would never stand in such a shameful position and in such unusual clothes. Daiki says that he knows because it is an illusion of Yuri. At this point, the men fell down and said that it was very cruel. The bottle of alcoholic drink also fell down and all the liquid spilled on the floor. At this point, Violet wished the men sweet dreams. The illusion dissipates. Yuri said that they call it a sweet trap. This way, they can convince enemies to drink this sleeping potion without harming any of the elves. The girl should have used this earlier. Ila said that this illusion of her was too embarrassing, so she asked Yuri not to do it again. Yuri said that the girl really suited the outfit. Ila asked her to stop. Daiki asked if Yuri had really reincarnated as Violet. The girl responded positively and said that she was limited in using illusions of what she remembered, so she acted convincingly. Daiki says that Yuri was just like Violet and it was impressive. She even managed to fool the Imperial guards. She says that she is very happy. After a while, Yuri asks the golem to wait for her near the entrance. She enters the room and takes the keys from the locker. The girl then opens the cell door and asks if they are okay. The elves ask who the girl is. Yuri replies that they are helping Afa and have come to save them. They will help them escape the Empire and return to their homeland. The elves didn't seem to believe Yuri. The men said that it was simply impossible to escape from the Empire. Yuri was very surprised by this. The little elf spread his arms and said that it was impossible, and asked Yuri to leave them. He also said that the girl wanted to deceive them. The man asked the girl to stop. They didn't want to feel even more pathetic than they already were. Ifa appears in the passage and asks them to calm down because this girl is on their side. The elves ask if it is really Ifa. The man answers in the affirmative and says that it is a relief to see them all alive. He apologizes to all the elves in the room for taking so long to come to their aid. Yuri asked why Ifa was there. The man replied that he was done rescuing his unit, so he went to meet Yuri. The girl said that she was very happy to hear that. The little elf asked Afa who this woman was. Another male elf said that Afa had spoken of salvation, but was he really going to leave the Empire? The little elf says that let's start with the fact that Ifa betrayed them, and they have no confidence that he is not still on the side of the Empire. Yuri says that she is the crown princess of the imperial country of Flayed. Her name is Yuri Flayed. Considering Ifa's request, and also because of the suffering of the enslaved elves, they hurried and came to save them. With Afa in the Sky Castle, they thought about helping the elves. The elves were surprised by the words that she was an imperial princess, and also about the Sky Castle. Ifa says that they can find out everything at the border from the beastmen after the escape. The man asked that the beastmen were also involved in this rescue. He asked about how many supporters Ifa has. Ifa really wants to save him. The man says he will save them all and bring them home, even if it costs him his life. If they doubt his loyalty for even a moment, they can kill him. Everyone is surprised by his words. Ifa swears and asks them to trust him. The little elf said that he understood Ifa and will listen to him. Ifa turns to Yuri and says that he thought that the Flayed Empire didn't want to get involved in all this. The girl says that's true. She's the only one personally involved. It's okay, as long as the Empire doesn't know about it. In any case, the rescue will not advance if they hide who they are. They have very little time. Moreover, now that security has been tightened, they have no time to be ineffective. Ifa apologizes. Yuri says that they can't do anything because those elves were seriously injured. They need a place to warm up and recuperate, like a castle in the sky if possible. Yuri says that Daiki is the kindest person. To give a blanket and a drink to people who are cold and tired. There are not many people like him. People who consider this something ordinary. Daiki is the one they can rely on to heal and warm the humans, even if she has to save them first. The girl then suggests hurrying up and helping the elves return to their lands. Ifa agrees and asks to accept gratitude. After some time, Yuri and Ifa come out and see 3 elves who are scared by 2 golems. Ditsun appears and says that they finally met. He is glad that Yuri and Afa are okay. Ditsun says that he was very worried about Yuri. The girl replies that she was worried about Ditsun too, and then asks if Ditsun was able to save the elves. Ditsun says that the girl knows that he is a court mage, and saved everyone who needed to be saved. Yuri says that Ditsun did well. The man asks if the girl takes him for a fool. At this point, the golems take the elves in their arms. The little elf tells Ifa that he believes him, and the male elf asks him to meet again, but at home. The man smiles and asks them to take care of themselves. The golems head to the heavenly palace. Yuri turns to Ditsun and asks if he agrees that the three of them must now act together. The man asks what they must do. Then the boy asks to take a closer look at Ifa. The girl asks why he does that. The girl says that it seems that Ifa is hiding something from them. It's not that she lives peacefully in the Empire, but she can tell when people are lying. Ditsun asks what it means and what the girl means. Yuri says it's just her intuition. Those who were saved weren't the only ones who froze. That's what it means. Ditsun asks what Yuri is even talking about. Ifa apologizes for keeping them all waiting. He says it was luck that they all met without problems. The reason they are here, as he said, is to rescue the elves from the inner palace. Yuri asks if that means they need to infiltrate the palace. Ifa says the plan is the same as he said before. They have Yuri with his illusions and, unfortunately, the Imperial Court Mage who must play along with him. Ditsun asks what is wrong with this elf. Ditsun says that Ifa was trying to break the peace from the start. Yuri says that they need to hurry. Ifa approaches Daiki and says that he wants the boy to keep the humanoid golems outside the palace and keep an eye on everything from the sky with the small flying golems. Daiki asks them to be careful. He says that if something happens, they should contact him and then he will gather all the golems together. Ifa agrees and says that if it is possible, then Ifa takes out the ring that the king gave him and begins to frown. Ifa and Violet approach the guard. The girl says that they caught this intruder on the way back. It seems that he is the elf kidnapper who is causing chaos in the city. The man heard that the kidnappers were beastmen, but perhaps he was one of their comrades. Ifa says they will take him to the dungeon to interrogate him. He demands the gates be opened. The guard says he has accepted the order. Ditsun wonders why the dirtiest work is on him again. Yuri thought they had successfully entered the palace. At that time, Daiki's drone was inspecting the palace. He said that golems and drones are now on standby high in the sky. He hopes that everything will be resolved peacefully. Ida says that's true. They can only pray for them. These three are very strong and it will definitely be fine. Then he said that for now it was possible to begin preparations for the return of the elves to their homeland. At this time, an elf girl named Fiatora was in the room and looking out the window. An elderly woman approached her and asked why the girl was not sleeping. The girl said, calling the woman Her Highness, that she was sorry and then asked if she had woken her up. The woman replied that she had not at all, and that she had not been able to sleep that day. The woman said that she was thinking about that child. The girl replied that she would bring the woman some tea. The woman thanks the elf. The girl ran through the corridors of the castle and glanced at a picture of the royal family. The golems carried the last of the elves away. They debated whether Ifa had really told the truth. The little elf said that there was no proof that the woman was a princess of the empire, so there was a possibility that they had been deceived. The elf woman replied that they should trust their comrade at least a little. The man replied that during their time in the village, Ifa had never betrayed their expectations. He then notices the other elves eating and tending to their wounds. Another man says that they will save him too. The man says that they all survived. The little elf sees his friends named Rito and Char. The girl begins to cry, relieved that they were saved. The little elf breaks down and begins to cry. They are noticed by Schnee. The girl gives them a plate of food and says that she is so happy for them, and now they should take the plate and eat. The boy says that this soup is very tasty. The little elf thanks the girl for the food. The elves tell Tolaine that she thinks they have rescued all the elves imprisoned in the city. They have put together all the information they and their staff have received, but the only one missing is Fiora. Tolaine says that it is as they thought. The other elf says that she had no idea that she was being held in the inner palace. Tolaine turns to Ayla and asks if she can find out what happened to their village. Ayla looks at the screen and says that there's a building there that looks like an imperial military outpost, but it is completely abandoned. The elf man says that most likely the spirit tree rejected them. It allows only those it accepts to live near it. Even if the rejected people try to live there, they will be subject to attacks from demonic beasts, disasters, or at least failure. And even if they can resist it for a while, they still will not stay for long. Daiki says, to think that the spirit tree has such power. Even if they have enemies at the moment, they must not let down their guard. Due to the disappearance of the elves, there is a great commotion outside the palace. The place hasn't been found yet, but the Empire is a formidable opponent. They must be careful. The elves were tense, but were interrupted by Mare. The girl said that the preparations for the transport were ready. Tulane thanked the girl for her help. The girl says that for some reason this reminds her of the moment when they were saved. The man asks if this means that they were saved too. Tulane says that it is absolutely true. They received the seal of forbidden goods. They were also saved by the Sky Castle, and Daiki took them from the illegal goods traders. The girl says that their village was attacked by hostage hunters. Since then, they have been hiding in the Sky Castle. The elf asked if that was true. Tulane said that the Sky Castle had been kind to them in their village, and Daiki would definitely protect the elf village too. Lander brings drinks, and says that in a little while they can go to the village, but first they should drink some water. The elfman says that they are grateful for the kindness. The man asked the golem what they were going to do with Fayatora. Daiki replied that Afa and the others had snuck into the palace to rescue her. First, they will bring the elves back to the village, and then, a little later, they will bring Fayatora along with Afa and the others to the village. The elves also say that they want to help and let them save her life, because every villager is a member of a large family, and they cannot rely on Daiki for everything. The boy says he's really glad, but they need to get some proper rest now. He trusts Mare and Schnee to support Ife and the others. Schnee says she's not confident in herself at all. Mare says to trust her. She ate lots and lots of meat to build up her strength for the day. Schnee says Mare just likes meat. Ifa and the others escape if necessary. He gave Afa another Sky Castle device so they can stay in touch. Tulane says they're counting on her. Mare says that everything is fine and they have Daiki's golems. However, the girl has already messed everything up once, and it's amazing that she can say it with such a face. Mare says it's all good until it fails again, so she's going to take this chance to shine. Schnee says she's too positive. Male elf says girls are positive. He looks at the moon and says that they trust Afa Fayatora. He suggests that we definitely meet in the village. At this time, the guards greeted General Violet that she had returned. The girl asked Ifa if Violet was really popular here. The man said that she was the one who was leading the army in the shadow of Koning. Even among the commanders, she's the most distinguished and merciful to those who bow to her. She puts in their place those who show their teeth and sometimes cuts off their heads with her blade. Ditson says that she even seems to enjoy the torture. Yuri says that they need to play a little more interestingly. She imagines swinging a whip at Ditson. The man starts crying and says that it's very cruel. Yuri laughs and apologizes, asking if it was like Violet. Ditson says it was exactly like that. Ifa says that Violet's room of interest is under the barracks. From there, they can go through an underground tunnel to get to the dungeons. There should be a secret passage that connects to the inner palace. The guard turns to Violet and asks if she's going to interrogate the intruder. He admires her and asks if he can be her chair today. Another guard asked the man what he was talking about, since it was his turn to be her chair. The man said that whenever the girl interrogated someone, she used them as a chair for training. Ifa and Violet sweat. He whispers and says that they can't take them with them to the dungeon, so she has to refuse them. The girl remembers this. She silently walks up to the guards and then looks at them with hatred and says that they are all pathetic worms. She does not sit back and train trash like them who can't even take their turn. She says that today's chair will be Afa. Everyone is surprised by this, and the elf is covered in sweat from such news. The girl orders everyone to leave and says that she is not interested in the stupid people of the Imperial Army. Then they all leave, and the guards look at Ifa. Ditson giggles and turns to Ife, asking if he heard that he is now a chair. Yuri, meanwhile, breathes a sigh of relief. Ditson asks if the girl is okay. Ifa asks what happened to her. Yuri says she used too much magic and is just a little tired. Ifa says that they have gone quite far and it should be safe here. The patrols will not come, so she can take her real form. The girl agrees. Yuri appears in her true form. She says that Violet is such a tedious job. Ditsun asks if the girl wasn't quite enthusiastic. She really almost became one. Suddenly, one of the guards appears. The man starts shouting what is happening. More guards arrive after him. The man says he knew it was too weird. They ask Afa what kind of people these are. Even for a court magician, bringing someone to the barracks is too much. Ifa realizes that they followed them. Yuri says that these Imperial soldiers are on him. She didn't even notice them. The men started shouting that it was simply impossible for Violet not to use them as chairs. And what's more, she wouldn't do that to Yufa. Violet also never speaks respectfully. Ifa turned to Yuri and told them to run. The girl understood everything immediately. She grabbed Ditsun. At that moment, Ifa used his magic and hit one of the knights. The soldiers thought that Ifa was one of the rebels, and the second one replied that he was an elf after all. The man shouted at Ifa that the Empire had been so kind to him, and he had repaid them with evil. These words hurt Ifa, and he ordered them all to be silent and then used ice magic to attack the soldiers. Ditsun screamed and did not understand what Ifa had done. The men began to run. Ditsun asked what Ifa had done, because now they would not be able to return. Ifa said they were heading to the inner palace. They weren't going back to the barracks again. Then he said they had to keep going. Even if the road was blocked, they would still get them. Ditsun asked what Ifa would do if the building fell. Ifa asked if it would not be better if he brought the building down. Ditsun shouted that it would not be better at all. Yuri smiles and says that Ditsun and Ifa got along so well. Ditsun says that there is nothing like that. Then they go into the dungeon. As they passed the cells, they thought they were in an Imperial dungeon. There was a man in one of the cells. He was asking for help. Yuri and Ditsun were scared when they saw this. The man started crawling closer to the cell and then grabbed the bars and begged to be saved. He was sobbing and looked just awful. Yuri turned away because it looked so cruel. Then they saw the cage, which was completely covered in chains and boarded up. The man in the cage begged for water. Ifa thought that this cell was locked tighter than all the others. The man showed his face and asked for water. Ifa was very surprised by his appearance, and apparently he knew who the man was. Yuri saw the man and approached the cage. She said she would heal his wounds and give him some water. Ditsun asked the girl to stop. He said they don't know why this man is locked up here. The people locked up in this dungeon are criminals. It's just dangerous. The girl turned around and said that this man needed help. She breaks the chain. Ditsun asked Yuri to think about herself first. Besides, after the illusions, her magic was weakened. The girl began to heal the man and said that she was not one of those princesses who did nothing when someone nearby needed help. She also says that as her friend, Ditsun should understand this. At that time, the girl was treating an exhausted man. Ditsun thought that it was precisely because he was her friend that he was worried the most. At that moment, Ifa just stood there silently. Ifa said that the man was a political criminal who was planning a rebellion against the royal family of the empire. This man is the first prince of the Brow Empire named Schwartz. He is arrested for attempting to murder his father. The man opens his eyes at this point. Yuri and Ditsun are surprised by this news and who this man is. Schwartz asks in a weakened voice if this is really the voice of the court magician Ifa. He says that according to rumors, elves do not change even after decades. But it seems that Ifa has changed a lot. Ifa was a puppet serving the army a long time ago. Ifa gets angry and orders the man to shut up. Then he turns around. Ditsun awkwardly asks what they will do next. They need to hurry to the inner palace. The guards will arrive soon, and if they do not leave, things will be bad. Ifa said that all the other people besides them are guards. Ditsun asks what Ifa means, and wasn't he the one who blocked the only exit? Does he really mean that they are now literally mice in a trap? Ifa asked him not to panic. Ditsun asked the elf to stop being so secretive, because they know he is hiding something. He said that they were comrades, and why didn't he just tell them everything as it was? Ifa said that he thought it would be a bit tedious to tell them, but he borrowed something from Daiki. Although he can't read what's written there, he remembers how to use it. There's a passage in this dungeon known only to high-ranking mages that leads to the inner palace, and a spell is needed to open it. He asked Daiki to ask Violet about it. The peculiarity of this spell is that elves cannot use it because they do not trust them. He thought of other options, but this was the safest. Knowing her character, if they can guarantee that she can return home, she will easily agree. Since he cannot use the spell, he will have to be conjured by him. Ditsun asks if Ifa really borrowed something from Daiki from the Sky Castle. He starts crying and asks why Ifa and not him. Ifa begins to get scared. Ditsun asks why not him, the oldest of the students, why this one is still so green. He becomes so jealous of Ife and runs to the man in tears. The elf said that Daiki is so problematic. At this time, Yuri saw a beautiful scene of great male friendship. She said that they got along very well. After a while, the soldiers announced that there were intruders here, so they should prepare their weapons. They asked where all the magicians were. Daiki, meanwhile, was monitoring the entire situation with the help of drones and said that Ifa and the others seemed to have been discovered. However, Meyer and Schnee are already close, which means that the climax is near. The young man thinks that if everything turns into a fight, he will definitely protect everyone. The young man is filled with confidence. Rescue the elves and return them to their homeland. The young man can cover the rear, do intellectual work, and create an environment where everyone can work efficiently and safely. Daiki won't let something like that happen again. He thinks he can try to use everything he has. Violet's room. The girl sarcastically asked why she needed to do the princess a favor and what she would get out of it. Ayla asked seriously, politely asking the girl to teach them the spell that opened the dungeon passage. If Violet told them the spell, then she would be free. Ayla says they will let her return to Earth. Ayla thinks about the passage of the dungeon. She wonders if Ifa really intends to sneak into the Empress's private chambers. Violet smiles and turns to Princess Leticia and asks her if she doesn't hate her. The girl turned her into a forbidden commodity, used politics to threaten her family, and planned a war. The girl says that she is the court mage of the Empire and the commander of the Empire. Ayla says that this is absolutely true, and that is why she is nothing more than a part of the Empire. Violet is surprised and continues listening to Ayla. The girl says that she is simply one of the sides of the Brow Empire. That is, one of the cogs in the mechanism that makes the Empire fight. Ayla says the same can be said about the elves. Enslaved by force, they lost everything. The Empire used them as things. She, as a citizen of Aluda, even now, when all her rights have been taken away, she loves her country. It is natural for her to feel hatred and disgust for the Empire. Ayla says that, however, she is now speaking to Violet as Ayla, who is a resident of the Sky Castle. She has no intention of addressing her with the warm feelings she has for the Empire. After all, these feelings have no place in the Sky Castle. Information about the spell and saving the elves is the girl's real duty. Violet says that she understands everything, and then asks Ayla if she really says that she wants to become a mechanism of the Sky Castle. She asks if she really decided for herself to swear allegiance to this boring place. Ayla says that if her wish could come true, this is what it would be. Violet suddenly bursts into laughter. Violet says that Ayla is the one who betrayed and was betrayed by her homeland. How can she say that she will serve this country from now on? She says that the girl never learns. She asks what the girl will do if she is betrayed again. Ayla starts screaming and says that this will never happen as long as Daiki is the king of this country. Then this will never happen. Violet smirks and says that hasn't the girl become just something like an object here, since she is a forbidden commodity. She greets the same people who have nowhere else to go, talking about saving them. This man does everything only for his own benefit. Ayla says that this is absolutely not true, because she is in this castle by her own will. In the Sky Castle are those people whom she loves so much. The girl honestly states that she loves Daiki and wants to be with him always. Then she turns away shyly. Violet at this point says that she understood the reason. She calls these feelings so beautiful. However, the girl asks if Ayla knows that humans are the very creatures that can easily betray each other. Ayla is frightened by her words and does not understand what Violet wants to tell her. Suddenly, the girl approaches, takes Ayla by the shoulders and says that they will hope that the girl will not shed tears when she is betrayed. Ayla in response begins to get angry, and then casts a spell. Ayla pulls away. Violet says that this place is on a lion's mane. She will gladly teach the girl a spell if it will help her escape this boredom. It seems that she will not find the desired sensations here. However, she was very glad that she was able to talk to Ayla. She thought that she was a cowardly and pathetic girl, but she was wrong. Ayla was very surprised by this. Violet goes to the window and continues to ask Ayla to let her fix something. She says that she is not a cog in the Empire and asks the girl to remember this. Ayla is surprised. She says that she understands everything and then thanks Violet for the spell. Ayla then says that A1 will take her to the ground later, so she asks her to wait a little. After some time, Ayla comes out of Violet's room and starts shaking all over, and beads of sweat are running down her face. The girl remembers how she said that she loved Daiki very much. She begins to reproach herself and says that she was too excited and blurted out something like that. She does not understand what could have gotten into her then. Then she turns to A1 and says that it is a secret. The robot looks at the girl and then nods back. The girl smiles and thanks A1. Then they run because they need to hurry and teach Afa this spell. At this time, Ditsun shakes Afa and asks about everything. Suddenly, Ayla appears on the screen of the device that Afa received from Daiki. Afa asks about Vela, and Ayla answers positively and says that she has received a spell. The girl pronounces it. She also says that the place of passage is on the mane of the lion. Daiki, meanwhile, thinks that he's glad he asked Ayla for this. After all, the spell is in a language he can't understand. If he pronounces it wrong, it could end badly. Ayla just saved the boy. He turns to the girl and thanks her. Ayla immediately becomes embarrassed and then says that you are always welcome. The young man does not understand why the girl has such a reaction. At this time, Ditsun talks about the lion's mane and adds that they examined every corner of the dungeon, but there is nothing like that here. Afa thinks that this simply cannot be, and did Violet lie to Ayla? At this time, Ditsun tried to understand what kind of device this was that the great Lord Daiki himself gave to the elf. Suddenly, Schwartz says that it is a garbage chute. Afa is surprised by this. Right behind the dungeon, there is a warehouse with a large locker. It may seem that it is not often used as an exit. However, the garbage chute there is a kind of special exit for garbage. Through it, they fall into the dungeon. In the middle of this garbage chute is a symbol of a lion. He was told that this symbol was for emergencies, although he did not know the spell. Daiki at this point asked if there was anyone there with them. Afa said that it was just a prisoner, so there was no problem. Ditsun talks about the garbage chute that is overflowing with garbage. Afa says that garbage is nothing. Suddenly, Schwartz turns to them and says that he doesn't want to interrupt them, but that lady looks very bad. He holds Yuri in his arms. Ditsun is frightened when he sees her condition. The girl says that it seems she has used up all her mana. Schwartz says that the girl healed him with her power. He stands up and says that if they don't mind, he asks to be allowed to help them escape, because he wants to repay this lady. Then he turns to Afa and says that, moreover, it will be to his own advantage, because he asks permission to take them to the inner palace. Afa asks what the man's goal is. Schwartz ponders this, then says that he wants to help his mother and friend escape the demonic hands of his terrifying father, as he does all the people of the Empire. Afa asks if the man has really not given up on the idea of overthrowing the imperial royal family. It has been so many years since he was arrested. The man says that one could say that he has gained strength precisely because the years have passed. Even though he was imprisoned, the plan was still in place. He gets angry and says he wants to kill this man no matter what it takes, helping them intersects with his goal. So it's a win-win for both parties. Ditsun says that it is very beautiful, and other than Afa, they have no knowledge of the inner palace, and Daiki's drones cannot penetrate there. Suddenly, Afa says that she refuses Schwartz's offer, and then, in all seriousness, says that he will be the one to kill the king of the empire. Everyone is very surprised by this, even Daiki. Afa gets angry and says that he will send him straight to hell with his own hands. Daiki starts screaming. What is Afa talking about? He didn't hear anything about it because they were just going to save the elves. Suddenly, Afa disconnects the call from Daiki. Afa says that's why they don't need him and he should stay and sleep in his cell. Schwartz says that he didn't want to come to this, but he has to. He grabs Yuri and takes him hostage. He says that he did not plan to hurt this girl, so he asks to just get him out of here and take him to his mother. The girl is breathing heavily at this time. Schwartz whispers to her, apologizing that it is only for show, and he will not harm her. At this point, Ditsun acquires a simply sinister aura, and a dark aura begins to ooze from his fingers. He orders Schwartz to take his hands off Yuri. Afa is frightened by what is happening to Ditsun now. Suddenly, the guards' voices are heard from the corridor. They shout that the intruders are in the dungeons, At this time, Daiki does not see anything and tries to shout from Ifa. He does not understand what is happening now, and is very worried. Daiki thought that Ifa wanted to kill Emperor Konings. Daiki says that when they made the plan, he did not say anything like that, although they decided to secretly save all the elves imprisoned in the Empire. Afterwards, they wanted to take them to their homeland, lending them some golems. Iwa asks what happened to Daiki. The young man said to let the golems begin to storm the castle. He's not sure what Ifa is thinking, but it's definitely dangerous. Yuri and Ditsun are involved in all of this, and he can't figure out if they've reached the inner palace or not. Now it's time to send Violet to the ground. They want to get her down, and then use the golems as reinforcements. The boy comes to Violet with Ela and is frightened by the girl's hostile gaze. The girl says that she will meekly accept Daiki's magic this time, but they must try to prepare themselves for their next meeting. The girl smirks and says with hostility that it is because she will definitely destroy their golems to smithereens. She will smash them to pieces. Daiki says that her words make him want to avoid her in the future. Aiel yells that she will definitely not let that happen. Daiki notices the girl's determination at that moment. Violet smirks and says no matter what they do, the girl will win, because this is the only way she can have fun. She flies and then notices the little golems that were tending the farm, but are now flying away from the castle. At this time, in the inner palace, an elf was packing her things. The queen came into the room and asked if the girl had finished with her luggage. The elf replied that she was almost done, and then noticed a scarf on the screen. This is what Schwartz gave her when she first came to this palace. Many years ago, the girl came to the palace. She heard many rumors that wandered around the castle about how they were going to use elves as servants. These were the king's other maids or concubines. The girls asked what the empress was thinking. What if they betrayed her and attacked her? The girl thought that is if they could hand over anyone at all, having marks of forbidden goods. If she did something like that, not only she, but everyone in the village would end up being executed. They had already killed so many elves. Doing something that would lead to more killings was simply impossible. At this time, the little prince runs up to the girl. He asks if the elf is cold. The girl is surprised. The prince says that he heard that elves live in rather warm forests, and that this is probably the first time she has seen snow. The girl replies that it snows in their forest, but very rarely. The boy is surprised and says that he did not know about it. He takes off his scarf and asks the elf to take it, saying that it is very warm. It will be bad if the girl catches a cold. The girl slowly tries to say that she cannot take it. Suddenly, a lump of snow hits the boy's head. At this point, the queen tells Schwartz that he has let his guard down. The boy starts laughing and throwing snow at his mother as well. Suddenly, Schwartz throws a snowball and hits his father, who is walking down the castle corridor. He runs up, starts shaking, and asks for forgiveness for his miss. Suddenly, the king slaps his son. The queen immediately runs to her son, but she also gets hit in the face. The man starts screaming and tells the woman that he told her to raise her son properly. The boy screams for his father to stop doing this, and says that it is not his mother's fault, and it is only his fault. The man screams that his son is just a weakling, and he is alive only because of him, and he knows it. It is only because he dedicated himself to this country and made it develop that they are here now. The man says he is furious and leaves. He orders him to bring the slaves, and he is going to tear them apart. At this point, Schwartz turned to his mother and said he was asking for forgiveness. The girl said everything was fine, and then she asked if the boy was okay. The elf stands at this moment and is simply horrified. She approaches the queen and the prince and says that she will cure them both. The woman thanks Fiatora and smiles sweetly. It was at that moment that she realized that it wasn't just the elves who were prisoners in this place. There were many prisoners in the Empire who had no willpower. Even if Schwartz was the only one who stood up to the Empire and started a rebellion. The girl clutches the scarf and remembers Schwartz. Then a guard enters the room and asks the Empress if she has finished her preparations. He has arranged for a carriage and a spoon, so she must hurry. The woman asks about the boat and asks if they aren't evacuating to a mansion outside the city. The man thinks they'd better find shelter there. They've already made arrangements with their general. Elfika asks about the escape. The woman says that Aluda is currently an enemy of the Empire, the country that defeated the Empire with the help of Princess Letitia's allies. They might take them in exchange for the information they have, but the woman refuses. She says she is the leader of a rebel army. Walk away and abandon this country? She can't afford that. The woman has decided to stay with you, and she is ready to die in order to bury this man. Moreover, Phyatara has a mark of forbidden goods. Her betrayal will cost her life, and, at the same time, the lives of other elves, as well as Schwartz. The male knight says that using this rebellion, he will save Schwartz through a detour. The woman says that she will go too. The man tries to stop her. She says that they will have to use the secret passage on the Lion's Ridge anyway. They will go down to the dungeons and meet her son. She suggests that they hurry, because they can't let the concubines or anyone else become suspicious of them. The woman clutches the sword and says that she will finally see her son again. The elf is also worried about Schwartz. At this moment, Ifa hears the voice of the guards in the dungeons. He understands that now is simply a very inopportune moment. At this time, Schwartz holds Yuri hostage and orders him to be taken to the inner palace. Ditson ordered him to let Yuri go. Ifa thought that such annoying things always get in his way. He wonders what is wrong with this amount of magic power. Ditson ordered the prince to let Yuri go. Yuri told the man to move away. At that moment, a squad of guards entered the dungeons. They were about to prepare their weapons but were stopped by Ditson's magical power. Suddenly, the knights were defeated and all the remaining prison bars were sawed off. Ifa tried to understand what was happening to Ditson's magic and whether it had gotten out of control. Suddenly, a wave of magic flew toward Shawls and Yuri, but the man covered the girl with his body. The girl said that the man saved her and then asked if he was okay. She shouts at Ditson to calm down because the girl is fine now. She understands that he has lost his temper again. She says that even though you can't tell by him, Ditson is one of the best mages in the Empire. In order to obtain sufficient funds to study golems, there were times when Ditson worked hard, defeating monsters and entire gangs of thieves. He is the greatest in combat magic and evasion in the entire Empire. Although he sometimes behaves strangely, Ifa understands why he tried to escape when they met him in the Empire. The girl says that, however, when Ditson gets into an extreme situation, he falls into an uncontrollable state due to strong excitement. At this time, Ditson ordered Schwartz to let Yuri go. He swears that he will not forgive him if the man causes the girl even a drop of pain. At this time, Ifa thinks that he wants everything not to go downhill even further. The man grabs Ditson's hand and orders him to calm down. He tells him not to let his emotions get the better of him. Ditson says that Ifa is interfering with his magic with her bare hands, and that it could be dangerous. He says he doesn't plan to hurt Ifa, so he should step back. Ifa says Yuri is safe, so Ditson should stop the spell. He is the only one who can protect her. Ditson says he knows it. Ifa turns to Schwartz and says that they will take him to the inner palace, and then asks him if this suits the man. Schwartz gives a positive answer. He apologizes to Ditson and says that the girl is okay. The young man says that it is a great relief that Yuri is okay. If Yan Wao finds out about this, he will be very worried about his sister. Ditson starts crying and says that Yuri is his only younger sister, and also the princess of the Empire and his precious friend. The girl says that there is no need to worry about her so much. She apologizes for being so careless. Ifa looks at them and then says, apologizing to Diceness, that he could not open the passage on the Lion's Ridge, since the guards are already on their way. The young man flies up to the lion and casts a spell, and then a passage appears. Ditson says that the passage has indeed opened. Ifa asks them to go to the inner palace, and he himself will deal with the guards, and then catch up with them. He also says that if they find Phyatara, they should not worry about him and run away. Phyatara is their top priority. Daicine asks the elf what he's going to do. Ifa says he will handle it himself. Moreover, he must deal with the guards. Ditson catches up with him, but Ifa gives him the smartphone and says that in this case, they can contact Daiki. He apologizes to them for dragging them into this. Ifa also asks to convey his words to Daiki. He will be the one to kill this man. Ditson realizes that the elf really is going to go and kill the king. The young man sends them away and says that he entrusts his family to them. Schwartz, Ditson, and Yuri make their way through a narrow passage. They see Ifa spotted by guards. After a while, they emerge into some wide passage. Yuri says that she hopes that Ifa will be okay. Schwartz says that Ifa is a talented magician. He will not die so easily, but he is marked with the mark of forbidden goods. Such creatures cannot go against the will of the owner. Ifa said he would kill the emperor, but even wounding him would be impossible. His target could not be used, but even so they must hurry. The man asks if they are really looking for Thyatira. He says that Thyatira is his mother's maid, and he knows her. In this mess, it would be great if she could escape. Then they walk down a long corridor. Suddenly, Ditsun sees a lantern in the distance. He asks everyone to hide because there are people coming from the other side. Schwartz wonders how there could be people in this passage. Then suddenly, he sees Thyatira, and her name comes out of his mouth. The male knight asks who is there. Then he sees Dysonus, who says that they are not suspicious people at all. Then the Empress notices her son and calls him. Schwartz is very surprised by this. He hugs his mother. After a long time, they are finally reunited. The male knight says that Schwartz has escaped from the greenhouse. The man says that this is exactly so. However, he asks what they are doing in such a secret passage. The woman says that they came for him. She says that Schwartz looks surprisingly cheerful, and it is a great relief. She is very sorry that she could not free him for so long. She cannot even ask his forgiveness. The woman begins to cry. Schwartz says it's all right. The pressure from the pro-emperor faction was more overwhelming than he thought, but thanks to that, he thinks they were able to trick them and buy themselves time. He points to Yuri and says that this lady healed him. If she wasn't here, he wouldn't even be able to move properly. He points to them and says that these people helped her escape from the dungeon. The Empress thinks that the girl's name is very familiar. At this time, Ditsun tells the elf that Thyatira was safe, and they came here with Ifa to save them. The girl is surprised by this. Thyatira asks if Ifa really started the rebellion. She asks what will happen to him and what will happen to the rest of the elves. Dysony tells the girl to calm down. The rest of the elves return to the village. Only the girl remained. The girl says that even if they return to the village, they still have the marks of the forbidden goods on them, so they will just return them. Yuri says that the Sky Castle golems will come with them. They are a rescue team formed by Ifa and the Sky Castle. The Empress asks about the Sky Castle and says that she thought it would just be nonsense dreamed up by Koenig's delusional mind. Yuri says that the castle really does exist. It would be better if they just believed them. Thyatira asks where Ifa is now. Schwartz says that he remained in the dungeons, saying that he would defeat their pursuers, and he also said that he would kill Koenig's. He asks the girl to calm down and says that Ifa has a mark of prohibited goods. Despite all his determination, he cannot use magic against his master. Thyatira says that Schwartz is wrong, and not in this case. That may be true for most servants, but she heard that Ifa received an imperial magical artifact from Koenig's, a ring. The magic of the servants does not allow casting an attack spell directly towards the master, but by achieving greater effectiveness of the indirect spell with its help, it is quite possible to kill the master. Schwartz asks how this is possible. For example, make everything around except the owner, explode and leave him in the epicenter of the explosions. Fire, flood. There are many ways, but for each of them, the caster must be in the same place as the owner. Because distance spells are less effective and there is a chance that both the host and the mage will be hit and die. She asks if that is what she meant. Dizzen asks if servants can't ignore danger approaching their master. He heard that due to the power of the slave mark, their body will move on its own and try to protect their master from harm. The elf says that the magical artifact not only increases the caster's power, but also, by pulling off a certain trick, binds itself to the caster. If the caster dies while the spell is in effect, even though the mage is dead, then with the help of the powers of the magical artifact, the spell will continue to operate. If they die, even with the mark of a forbidden commodity, they cannot save their master. By killing themselves, they can kill their master. That he would do such a thing is even more of a problem. It is to willingly sacrifice himself to kill the emperor. But these are just guesses. They cannot be completely sure. Among the elves, the use of such a magical artifact is a well-known story. In order to protect the spiritual tree, the elf who sacrificed himself in the same way forever hid the path to it. The girl says that Ifa will actually do the same. Ditsun remembers him saying that he got them into all this. Ditsun turns to Yuri and tells her that they need to save Ifa. The girl says that this is not like Ditsun. She asks if he is not worried. Ditsun says that he listens to her conscience and does not want Ifa to die. He is also an elf, and their plan was to save them all, so he wants to help him. Daiki would do the same. Yuri says she doesn't even doubt it. However, Yuri has used up all her mana, so he asks to go to the elf village with Fiatora on the golems waiting outside. The girl says that she is staying with the Empress and does not want to go to the village. Ditsun asks what the girl is saying, since they came here specifically for her. The Empress says that the magician called Yufa wants to kill Kongus, and she understands this. However, based on this plan, the magician will have to die earlier. Then it can be assumed that there is a greater possibility of only injuring Kongus. The girl says that it is impossible to say for sure that he will die, so they cannot be sure. The woman calls the general and asks him for a sword. The man gives her the sword. Then the woman asks if the man can move. The woman says that if the spellcaster fails, Schwartz must cut off the Emperor's head. This is her only goal in life, to kill this man and consign him to oblivion. Schwartz says he accepts her order. The girl turns to Schwartz and says she will join them too. Ditsun asks why things turn out this way. Schwartz said that, as he said earlier, he wants to kill Kongus by any means, and Mother and Fiatora are also part of the rebel army group. Ditsun asks if even Fiatora is a member of the group. Yuri looks at them silently, and then says that she will help too. The more mages, the better, right? Ditsun doesn't understand why the girl decided to do this. Yuri asks Ditsun if he can tolerate her selfishness a little longer. Ditsun looks at her silently, then nods. Fiatora takes Yuri's hands and says that she is grateful that their powers have increased. She will share her mana with her. It is a secret art of the elves, so it should make her feel better. Yuri thinks that with this they can fulfill the duty. The girl thinks that it is different from her expectations, but for the sake of the imperial country flayed, and also for the empire. At this time, the guards try to stop Ifa. They order the spells to begin. They ask why Ifa is doing something like this. After all, he is an elf, and that is their point, because marked servants are lower than humans. The men say they are beasts. Ifa says he understands. Ifa gets incredibly angry and says that then, like a beast, he will show them his claws. The guard asks if Ifa doesn't understand. If he continues, his life and the lives of the other elves will end here. Ifa says they saved them all. Ifa smiles and says, "Do they really not realize it yet? There is a limit to stupidity." He says that all they have is arrogance, self-confidence, deceit. This is so much so that they overestimate themselves. For this reason, they do not even realize when they are wrong. By not admitting their failures, they only indulge themselves. The Empire would bring no civilization or fortune to the elves. They were so arrogant about it. He was very impressed that they could say that after taking everything from them. If they are people, and the elf is a beast, then what would it be like to be trampled into the dirt by this beast? The guard says that the elf has gone completely mad. They hope that if suddenly Violet was here, the knights shouted to kill this rebel already. Ifa thinks that he is not afraid anymore. This is his atonement to show the pride of the elves. He remembers the woman who was showing the other elves that Ifa had made a wonderful thing. At that time, Fiatora asked if the bricks really wouldn't split from such heat. Ifa came over and told the girl not to worry, as he had added pyrophyllite, a phyllosilicate mineral consisting of aluminum hydroxyl silicate. It occurs in two forms, crystalline leaves and compact masses. Ifa says they can withstand high temperatures. Pyrophyllite is hard to get in their area. Ifa has done his best to mine it and make bricks. The woman says that thanks to this, she can bake at will. After a while, they were all having a nice meal of wonderful sweets and delicious pastries. The woman offers Ifa some tea because he really likes fruit tea. They drank a lot of it before, long ago, when she taught him magic. Ifa became a capable elf. She says that as his teacher, she is very happy. Those were days full of tenderness. But then, they suddenly disappeared when the Empire attacked their village. They walked in chains, one after another. The woman said that even if they had received marks of forbidden goods, they should not throw away hope and look only forward. This is the pride of elves. One day they will return to the spirit tree. She asks them to promise that they will hold his pride in their chests. Fiatora says that she promises. She asks them to endure everything for the pride of the elven race.